welcome to episode 31 of Zapped to the Past. My name is Adrian Mills and I'm joined as always by Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We are using the magazine Zapped 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zapped 64 itself. This week we're going to be looking at August 1986 and the first batch of games reviewed in issue 16 of Zapped 64, along with what was also going on in UK music. Graham, give us the lowdown on what's coming up.
In this stargazy pie of an episode, yes, that is a thing, we break out our paddles and say, "Thank you, sir, may I have another?" with Superstar Ping Pong. Get our 8-bit giddy on with the grainy and squintily erotic Samantha Fox strip poker and get frustrated at the fumbling, blocky buffoonery of touchdown football. As if that wasn't enough, we get our bicolor spectrum-alike pants in a twist with core, pour a gallon of paraquat on the crappy Groovy Garden and get all hypnotised with the screen-savoury goodness of Tubular Bells. Finally, we grab our katanas by the hilt and become samurai influencers with the multi-character world of Shogun before gritting our teeth, grabbing our best stabby knife and flamethrower and heading into the rescue mission fray with a gleefully gritty Green Beret. Now, let me see your war face.
Makana Matusu. Let's press on before the Havitas get near.
That's the only Havitos I know.
The only. Oh
That's
dear, I don't want that. Right, yeah. So we've got a bit of something to go on at the beginning here, because there is a game reviewed in this. It's a 128 only game though, which is a bit
Mysterious
strange.
world of the Commodore 128K.
Yeah. So the 128. What's all that about? So it's a Kickstart 2, which is in this issue. So it's 128 only, but it's £4.99 and it got 96% as a sizzler. But in the grand scheme of things, this really is nothing more than almost downloadable content. It's early downloadable content, isn't it?
It is essentially DLC, isn't it?
Yeah, it's extra tracks for the original game because they use the extra memory to shove in a load of extra tracks.
That whole extra 64K, use it wisely. There's so much of it.
Yeah, well, they've used it to shove in, how many, what is it, another 18 tracks, 16 tracks or
quite
something?
Incredible, really.
So I think there's 27 tracks overall now in the game. So that's quite impressive, but it's just more Kickstart.
Did they call it Kickstart 2? Is that the official designation for that?
I think they did, but then they dropped that, I think.
Yeah.
So essentially, this is not the official Kickstart 2. That comes somewhere down the line, I think, with the construction kit and everything. So that will come in at some point. Okay. I don't know. But yeah, so that's we're not going to talk about that.
No. Did you play any of the extra levels, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah, I did the same.
Yeah,
it was literally more of the same. There was no additional game logic. It was just more levels. It literally was more levels. So
yeah.
If you like Kickstart with more levels, then go and buy a Commodore 128. They're cheap enough, only £9,000 over there.
As all retro consoles at the moment. People have gone retro console mad.
What was the price of a Commodore 128 at the time? I don't remember. I just remember it being so preclusive that I remember thinking, why would anyone want to pay that for an extra 64K? But I didn't know anyone who owned one or anyone ever that owned one. So there you go, crazy world.
No, I didn't either. It was just one of them things, wasn't it?
It was an enigma wrapped in a mystery. It was the Kaiser Soze of computers.
Yeah, it was strange because you couldn't. I mean, this is one of I don't know. There were many games for the 128, but being 128 only, you kind of you scuppered your audience a bit, didn't you? You halved your potential audience base by some margin, I would imagine.
Crikey, Bob! I bet you it was like 1 in 9,000.
Yeah, probably. But that 1 in 9,000 was very happy with their extra 16 Kickstart 2 tracks. I can tell you that. So there you go. Right, that's that. So that's Kickstart 2. We're not looking at it beyond anymore.
Bah.
Let's move on. So our first proper game this month, our first 64 game this month, and that game is Superstar Ping Pong. So here we go. Yeah. So Superstar Ping Pong. We had Ping Pong the other week, didn't we?
We did. Yeah.
Imagine's Ping Pong. We had that.
Yes, it was.
Which begs the question: why did they call these games table tennis? I don't know. Do you know? Do you have any reason? Why are they not called table tennis?
I don't know. I thought it was called table tennis officially.
I think it's called table tennis, but these are all called ping pong. You don't see tennis games called international racket back and forth or
bat and ball.
I mean, football is quite self-explanatory, but ping pong is just a weird name for it. playing table tennis.
Yeah.
I don't know why they've gone with the ping pong.
No, I have to
moniker.
say it's a strange thing. I don't know. It must be ping. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's table tennis / ping pong, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something or other anyway. But it's Superstar Ping Pong. Now, when I loaded this up, I was doing other things, and after a little while, when I was coming back to it, that music had worked its way into my head, and it was
doesn't it just?
Nails on a chalkboard. It was that music after a while. But, at least it's got some tunes. There's a weird range of options for this game. So whereas Ping Pong, the Konami one, the Imagine conversion of the Konami one, offered very little. I don't even think was there even 2-player on that? Was the 2-player? I can't even remember if there was a 2-player mode on that.
On the Imagine Ping Pong, I don't remember. What I think there was. I want to think there was, but I can't remember, honestly.
Yeah, I honestly can't think either. So anyway, this one's got loads of options, whereas that one was bereft of options. This one's got loads of options. So yeah, you can have 1, 2, or no players. I quite like that. Too tired. That made me laugh. You can play it from behind, the sort of thing. Or you can play it from side on. But if you play it side on, you can only do 2-player. That's a strange thing.
Strange.
You can control whether you move the bat yourself or whether it's automatically. There are 3 speeds: beginning, normal, and hyperdrive.
Stupid.
Not sure what hyperdrive means, but it's fast, I guess. You can assign skill points to various attributes like forehand, backhand, endurance, and all kinds of crazy stuff. You can pick the colour of the paddles of both yours and your opponent.
Exactly. At what point, loads of options. When you were going through these options, did you realise that the fun was being drained out of the game gradually? One option at a time. Yeah, that came in a moment.
Because after that, it's just table tennis, and it was a little bit drab, I thought. It was a drab version of table tennis or ping pong or whatever you want to call it. The presentation in game is, it's pretty bare bones, really. There's not very much going on, is there? There's just the table, the paddles, the ball, and some weird attempt at visuals around the side of it, but nothing much to actually write home about. There's no crowd, there's no real sound effects beyond the bounce of the ball, and that didn't sound particularly great. No. It's just really dull. And also, I found that it was quite hard to control, because no matter what I seemed to do with the bat and move my joystick and with the timing and everything, that ricochet would go off in any direction, it kind of felt like.
Didn't it just? It drove me absolutely crazy. It did my head in.
Even, I don't know if it's just serving, because I tried multiple times just to serve. All I was doing was pressing the fire button, and sometimes it would go right, sometimes it would go left, sometimes it would go straight.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it would just fly off the table. I had no idea what was going on, so I don't know. I couldn't quite get my head around the controls themselves. And if you're gonna make a table tennis game or a ping pong game, you've got to get those controls right. You've got to be able to position yourself and know your timing. And this just seemed to not have that. So I don't know whether it's better in 2-player. I don't know, but this got 85%.
It did.
That seemed very generous.
It is for a ping pong game.
Very generous. This and maybe in 2-player it's a bit of a laugh, but even so, it's still just bloody ping pong table tennis. And there's the Imagine one. At least it had a crowd. Those blue Marios, didn't it? Weird blue Marios in the crowd. There's just none of that in this. It's just very dull.
Yeah.
And if you like lots of options before a game of ping pong, then this is for you. If you just want to get into a game of ping pong, go play the Imagine one, because for my money, I thought the Imagine one was better. What did you think?
Yeah, I have to say, I didn't dig either of the ping pongs, if I was honest. The previous one didn't thrill me because of it didn't always respond in the way I wanted. And guess what? This one didn't respond in the way I wanted either. I just don't get really the attraction to it. Graphically and the way it looks and the way it controlled it just looked like ping pong, which I think was an arcade conversion behind the scenes, wasn't it? So it just looks like whatever ping pong variant it was based upon. And it does. I just felt like you, if I went to hit the ball, it was a bit like guesswork whether it was actually going to hit it back and in what way. I know you had all these controls and all these settings prior to starting the game and starting the actual way you wanted to play, and that's all very admirable, and it did adhere to the rules of ping pong, okay? So this is a game that does, I've said before actually in this podcast that if you're going to make a game like this, make it adhere to the rules of the sport you're doing, and it does all of those things. I think ultimately it's an interesting game if you like ping pong, and you've got to really like ping pong. I want to call it table tennis now because I'm sick of saying ping pong. You've got to like table tennis really to be able to get into it. It's missing so much of that though, because it is just a one-on AI difficulty simulation. There's no leagues. There's no way you can do anything better. You can just play this game. And I have to say, if you compare this sort of pound for pound for the other sports game that's been very good in the past couple of months, so let's go back and look at Leaderboard for a second. Leaderboard did a really great way of simulating and enabling people to play golf. This does not necessarily appeal to everyone like Leaderboard did for golf. So you could have done a Leaderboard for golf, but ping pong for people that just want to access this kind of game. I don't think it does that. I think it actually rules people out. There's so many options to choose from. That is great for people that like it and understand what that really means. But for average Joe ping pong, this is nothing. So I think it's inaccessible, and it kind of ruins the fun of a game that you can just try and access. The inexplicable thing for me is how 85% equates to a ping pong game that's kind of, it is reasonably multi-dimensional, I suppose, in that you can choose options differently each time when you load it. But for $9.95, I think it's quite an expensive table tennis game for the Commodore 64, and it didn't light my fire. But then ping pong doesn't. I don't know why I keep saying ping pong. Stop saying ping pong. Table tennis.
Well, it's called Superstar Ping Pong. That's why.
Yeah,
it went your head.
I've just got ping pong. But table tennis ping pong.
At least it's not called Whiff Waff.
Whiff Waff. It's called Whiff Waff somewhere, isn't it? Is that?
Yeah.
Or is that
That's
badminton?
Boris Johnson, wasn't it?
Either way, whatever nomenclature they choose for a game of micro. And by the way, there is one other thing I will say about this, outside of the rules of table tennis and all the other things, is that the physics logic of this still felt a little bit wrong. It wasn't quite right. It still felt a little bit floaty and it didn't quite work. The Imagine ping pong game actually got that slightly better, I think. But either way, it wasn't for me. I wasn't impressed. And I think Zapped were clearly mesmerised by a ping pong game at 85%, but Zapp's scoring's gone so wildly arbitrary over the past couple of issues that
yes, it has.
I don't think it means anything anymore. So it is kind of an expression of a kind of, I don't know quite what that means, but for me, Superstar Ping Pong was a bit of a no-no. I didn't like it really, the game to begin with. This just kind of compounded the fact that how to remove fun from a game. Make me choose from 5,000 options before I start playing it.
Yeah.
When I have no idea really what those options mean until I play the game, and even then I don't really know. So, for me.
Ping wrong.
Yeah, ping wrong, ping off. Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. It's okay. It's just too many options. It's a bit boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you just want a quick game of ping pong, just play Konami's.
Yeah, or go and actually play table tennis with a table tennis bat and ball.
Yeah, you could do that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of works for any sport game, I suppose.
Yes.
So,
yes.
There you go. Right. Anyway, however, Superstar Ping Pong is one thing. Let's move on to our next game. Which is another sim of I don't know, is this a sport? Is it a game? Whatever it is. I'll tell you what it is, though. It's not very good. It's Sam Fox Strip Poker.
Oh, dear.
So, did you did you poker?
This
Did you enjoy your poker with Sam?
No, I did not. There's so much wrong with this game that it actually beggars belief. So let's just, it's a poker game, and it's actually a 5/7 card stud variant. I think we call 5 card stud Texas Hold'em nowadays, but either way, it's a variant of that game, so it's poker. So, and I'm not going to go into the trials and tribulations of how to play poker. You are dealt a certain amount of cards, and you can choose to bet on the outcome of those cards, and certain pairings and certain matchings of the symbols and the cards have different values. At the end of it all, you choose which one has got, you reveal your hand, and the one that's got the best hand wins the game of poker. In this particular instance, you win then the pot of money that's been bet, and you're technically playing the AI, so you're playing the against the computer. Crap though the computer be. At least initially, to get you into the game, because this is strip poker. So what you are represented with at the bottom of the screen is a deck of cards and the poker game. At the top of the screen, I'm not exactly sure what you call the image that you see up there. It's a badly 8-bit digitized version of Samantha Fox, who was at the time, page 3 model. For those that don't know what on earth I'm talking about, it was basically there was a tabloid newspaper in the UK, The Sun, I think The Star at the time, and maybe others. But then page 3, they used to have a picture of a young lady with their top off, so with her boobs hanging out. And Sam Fox was a particularly popular model, a page 3 model, who appeared in the said tabloid newspapers many times. So this game was a top opportunity for your eager young game self to get in there, play poker, strip poker, and strip the clothes off Sam Fox. And hey-ho, at the end of the day, you're going to see some Sam Fox boobs. Now, I can tell you that there are so many things horrifically wrong with this game that it defies the logic. Aside from the AI, which makes no sense and doesn't really work and makes it really easy to win anyway, generally, I suppose that's the idea. You are presented with horrifically 8-bit scanned versions of what I guess, were photographs at some point of Samantha Fox in various states of clothing. And as you progress through the game and keep winning the pots, various items of clothing come off. Woo, wit, woo kind of thing. So the image quality is so bad that even if you squint badly and stare at the screen, you're not going to get anything from that. The idea is that, you end this game by seeing Samantha Fox's boobs. And really, this was an endurance festival. To top that off, the mysterious John York stepped in to do the soundtrack. A lot of people think that John York was actually Rob Hubbard. And I have to say, it sounds a little bit like a Rob Hubbard piece. And the player sounds a little bit like Rob Hubbard. And anyway, John York did it. Officially. So John York music, awful. Graphics, terrible. Black and white, by the way, images of Samantha Fox in blur-o-vision. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of a bad poker game strapped to that with the idea of trying to strip a page 3 model naked. This was $8.95. I can tell you, if you really were that desperate to see Sam Fox's boobs, you could pay a lot less to see them by just buying a copy of The Sun, which is about 35p, and that meant you would see them in full and later in full color, so you didn't even have to see them in blur-o-vision. I don't get the appeal to this game. Apparently it's the first erotic game to feature a quote-unquote real person, so make of that what you will. I thought it was shit and I hated it. So that's my opinion of Sam Fox Strip Poker. But I'm guessing you loved it, AD, because you was a big fan of it. You met Sam Fox, so this was all manna from heaven for you.
Many years later, I happened to be at a gig where Sam Fox was also at that same gig, and I saw her and went, oh, she's quite small.
She's small, and she's a lot more colour than I remember her.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not nearly as blurry.
But that's the other thing. I only recognised her because I squinted loads. I was like, she's like, what are you doing?
And she wore a hat and a scarf.
Yeah. And then froze for no reason, taking it off.
Oh, gosh, no.
God, this game. It's awful, isn't it? It's a boring poker game.
Yeah.
My first comment is music by John York. Really?
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
Well, in this issue of Zapped, there's the musicians' ball, a big piece on all the musicians. I think Dave Whittaker, Ben Dalglish, Rob Hubbard. They're all having a big chat, and they all make a big joke about who did the music for Sam Fox Strip Poker, but I think we all know who it was, really.
I do as well. Anyway, yeah, it's digitized visuals of Sam Fox. Awful music. When I reset the emulator on this one, it was a soft reset and certainly not a hard one. So it failed miserably. I'm not sure of the point of this game, because as you so rightly pointed out, and I've written as well, let's not forget Sam Fox and the parade of others were on page 3 of The Sun and the Star back then. So if you just wanted to see some boobs, all you had to do was open the paper each day.
For less.
For less. Or just go down to your local newsagents and just open it up and put it back. Not that I ever did that. I did that.
You cheapskate. Pay £9 like the rest of us.
Free boobs.
Froobs.
Froobs. Actually, no. I know someone called Boobs and he's in prison. It's a war cry. It's a rallying cry. So he didn't do it. Anyway,
it's just unfortunately named
Bobby Boobs.
Bobby Boobies.
Oh dear. I can't see the point of this rubbish poker game. No. To try and see some digitized boobs. Just pointless. Just rubbish. Really, really crap, pointless attempt at cheap titillation that works in no way at all. It's not even a decent poker game. I would have much preferred if they'd have just spent the time on actually making a good poker game and, various... because there's only one variant of Texas Hold'em in it, isn't there? There's only those two, there's so many different, there's only one flop.
There is only one flop in that game. And it's all programmed on 8-tit.
There's just so much I could say about this game, but I don't want to. I don't want to give it any more time.
Don't. It was bad. It was a bad game.
It is a very, very bad game. So Sam Fox Strip Poker is I don't even know. I can't even think of a pun on that one. But
Sam Fox Strip Noker.
Oh, that'll do. There we go. So don't play it. God's sake.
It's just absolute dog egg rubbish.
Yeah,
rubbish. Avoid.
Yes, avoid. So what's up next? Okay, our next one is... God, it's sports game madness here. Touchdown Football. A game I hadn't played before. Was unaware of this American football game. I don't know if you played it before?
No, I'd not come across it at all.
No, I'd not played this. This was £9.95 and picked up 47%, so half as good as ping pong, roughly. And it's our second American football game that we've had in recent weeks after Super Bowl 20.
It is.
So this is a bit more of tries to replicate a more realistic view of the game, shall we say. So it's more some sprites and what have you, instead of the dots of Super Bowl 20 and those replays. It starts off with some perfunctory options, how many players, how long do you want each quarter to be, and then you're on into the game. And once it started up, the game that I was reminded most of was that god-awful World Cup Carnival.
Yes, funny, I made exactly the same note.
Because it just plays and looks exactly like that. It's just American football. I don't know who made this, I don't know. But this is terrible. So it's side-on, unlike Super Bowl 20. You've got six players on each side? I don't think there's any more.
Yeah,
so there's six sprites. They were really, really blocky. I mean, I've seen blocky sprites.
They were horrible.
But these were really blocky, and the scrolling was unpleasant. It wasn't smooth. It was piecemeal, so it would judder across like World Cup Carnival did.
It was juddery,
It was really unpleasant. It hurt your eyes because you were never quite sure when the scrolling was going to kick in. So the sound was rubbish. That terrible piece of music that played after the initial kickoff was awful. And it's slow when you start playing. You got some options to do some moves. Everyone moves about.
Nightmare.
It's juddery. Oh, this was really bad. This was World Cup Carnival level. I don't hate it as much as World Cup Carnival because it wasn't ripping off an old game that I'm aware of. So that level of vitriol won't be visited upon this. However, this is a very, very bad American football simulator game, whatever. So there's not a lot else to say about it. It's just a really, really bad version of that sport. I'm presuming from your comments you were in agreement there.
Oh, absolutely in agreement. This was awful. Juddery, blocky monstrosity that has no place on a Commodore 64. That was my review. I thought it was just devoid of playability, fun. It had no feeling. It looked awful, played slow. It was just terrible. And the graphics, I think, were some of the worst I've ever seen on a sports game. Just blocky things, flapping about. No control over the game. No love of the game in there. Just an international football, international soccer variant where the physics of the game is just different and not working. Just bad. And for full price, just bad, stupid. I'd rather have played. I mean, as much as I was not what you'd call the biggest fan of Super Bowl 20, I didn't think it was terrible, but it wasn't great. I'd much prefer to play that than this.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
So this is just, it was a monstrosity, and I'm tired of these crappy sports games that represent their sports in such a poor way. I mean, at least Ping Pong, Superstar Ping Pong looked a bit like Ping Pong, but this was no American football variant. There was no plays. There was no real interest in it. There wasn't enough players on the pitch. It just felt poor, and that annoyed me because I thought, well, the least you could do is don't pay lip service to the very sport you're trying to present. Make it good. Make it work. Put the effort in. And this game required no effort other than a stupid idiot was given a bit of money to make a game, and then the result is this. So it annoyed me because I actually really like American football, have done for many years. And when I see a game that's represented that I like badly, it annoys me. A bit like the football game did with you, the World Cup soccer game did with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not just, for me, it's not just about the affinity I have with the game. If you're going to represent and make a game that's playable and charge people £10 for the privilege, then do them the honour and the service of making the game good enough for them to really enjoy. This was crap beyond belief. So, no, I think 47% was generous. I wouldn't have given it that. I thought this wasn't half good. This was, I suppose one way of looking at it, this is 53% crap. I would have given it a much higher percentage of crap. It was awful. It was awful. I've seen that, the budget games do much better versions of things than this. So awful. Mm-hmm. If you're going to revisit an American football game, until we play the better ones, stick to the Super Bowl one that we've already reviewed, if it's my advice.
Yeah, you get no argument from me on that one. As weird as the Super Bowl 20's representation of the sport itself was, at least there was the requisite number of players on the pitch, even if they were all dots. But then again, you've got a lot of players on the pitch in American football, haven't you? So C60 can't replicate them. So they saw a way around it and did it that way, and had that very nice replay. This is just bad, awful. I can't stand that scrolling. I don't like games that scroll piecemeal.
I agree. Scroll a bit, play a bit, scroll a bit, play a bit. Judder. No, get lost.
Yeah. No. School Days did it as well, didn't it? I don't like it.
Yeah, there's a few that do it, and you know what? There's no excuse for a Commodore 64 that has a specific address in its VIC chip for scrolling. So no excuse for it. It's just bad programming. Programming.
I agree. Let's talk no more about touchdown football. We've talked of enough. So let's talk about our next game. before we go for a break. Core.
Core.
That's Core. Let's talk about the next one. Core. So the next game is Core.
That's probably what they should have called Sam Fox's Strip Poker. Core. Strip Poker. It wouldn't have helped. It doesn't help with this, really, does it?
They could have called it Ping Pong as well. Who knew?
Yeah, so I'll allude to what I feel about the game and the way it looks in a moment. Let's just quickly go through the setup.
Mm-hmm.
In this game, asteroids have been colonized and they are protected by the Federation. And a load of aliens have come along and their mission is to kill all humanity, which is always the mission of these aliens in these things, isn't it? Kill all humans. We hate you. We don't like you for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so if you're unable to figure out what's happened and why this has happened with the Federation, they send out the player that you are. The person that you play in this game is somebody called, get this, Mr. Andrew Angelo. And he's sent out to gather attacks on the information. And one of the asteroids that was attacked in this awful business was EROC 1. EROC 1, EROC 1. So there's a signal.
It's not Core backwards at all, is it?
No, it's not. It's not Core backwards. No. Shh, don't spoil the fun. So there's a faint signal being heard from something off that particular asteroid. I'm guessing they've borrowed a lot from sci-fi around at those. In that 10-year period, there's a bit of Alien in there with a sort of signal comes from space and what do we do? So as Mr. Angelo... Goodness me. You got to go find the bio-memory chips so that the plan of attack and alien armaments can be studied, thus saving the asteroids from the similar fate. So you're Mr. Angelo, you're walking around caves beneath the asteroids over these levels, and they've left booby traps and all sorts of stuff and things that will kill you all over the place, and you have a limited amount of power, and you can suffocate as well because you're on an asteroid, so you can find batteries and bits of equipment, and you kind of get the idea of where this is going about the kind of things you need to do. So I found myself running around with a spade digging a lot in this game, which gave me nightmares about games where I've played where I have to run around digging a lot.
What games are those?
Dragon Skull was it, where I had a shovel and I had to run.
Yes.
So this that's its premise. Now that's a grand premise. It's not lived up to by the crappy old game that's behind it though. So it's a monochromatic / bicolor Spectrum-esque Wandathon with big borrowings from Nodes of Yesod, but crap all the way. It's flick screen. Okay, or I like to call it shuffle screen, really, because it kind of goes shuffle. So you wander around, you bend over. I found myself sort of almost praying at things in this game, or periodically just going, praying, and I wander around, walk around, pick things up and... Boring, wander around, pick up the thing, Wandathon, boring. So I thought it was unenjoyable garbage. We've seen, and I've made a comment on it before, if you are going to dress the game up in all of this, flowery description and language, and the EROC 1 has gone through, and you are Mr. Angelo, and the more... They tend to dress up the game. When you actually get to the game itself, it very rarely lives up to that. And in essence, what you've got here is a monochromatic wander around flick screen nightmare, which is boring as hell. So I didn't like it. And for $9.95, it's a blatant rip-off again. Ooh. So what was your thoughts on Core?
Flick screen Spectrumathon, something about Andrew on an asteroid. I did think this then, sort of thing, because he's Andrew Angelo. This would have been better if it was Angry Anderson.
What from the?
If you're going to go AA, but as he is in Beyond Thunderdome.
Of course he is, isn't he?
He's the right hand man, and he's the guy who gets smashed into at the end. He's the one who can't die anyway. But he'd be great in this.
He could only have earned that name from being very angry. Either angry as an Anderson, or he's angry at people called Anderson. So watch out, watch out, Anderson.
I mean, he would go on to sing the neighbour's wedding song, wouldn't he? Which is a weird turn of career.
Yeah, what was that? Which I can't remember the name of that song now.
I don't want to remember it. But he went on to sing that. But it's just AA. So I'm just thinking, Angry Anderson would have been better in this. Anyway, it's rubbish. I wondered about this flick screen, menaced by stuff as you normally are. I was unable to do anything beyond move up or down through doors. I picked up a battery by praying at it, as you said, and then I got killed by what I think was some fire. Again, don't give me health if you're going to instant death me.
No.
I hate that. We've said this before. Phantom of the Asteroid.
Too many games suffer from it now.
Weirdly enough, Phantom of the Asteroid, by the way, was called Phantom of the Asteroid on its title screen, just as an aside, Phantom of the Asteroids in the game, and on the tape, someone posted a picture on Twitter. I think it was C64 that I think. No, who was it? Was it Retro? I can't remember who it was. But somebody posted a picture. The actual tape for the game was actually Asteroids. There's no right name for that game.
Get your name right. Come on.
Yeah, so there you go. I can't remember who it was who posted that picture, but thank you for just confusing the matter even further. It's like, what is it called? So Core, the main sprite is quite nice, but the rest of the graphics are just, it's just Spectrum conversion of, nonsense. And I've noted, why would you... I wasn't the biggest fan of these two games, Nodes and Ark of Yesod, but go play them, because they're way better than... way better than this.
Yes, they are.
It's a similar sort of thing, or even play Underworld, but I would say go and play Nodes or Ark of Yesod. Just pick one, because they're much better. They're very similar visually, but they're much nicer visually. They play strength to the C64. They have colour in their background.
Yes, they do.
And everything like that. This is so dull to look at. There's some other games we'll be looking at in these couple of episodes. They're just... Oh, the spectrumness of it hurts me. This is not a Spectrum.
I know. We said it before. We've said it before many times. And in fact, it gave me kind of the monochromatic EBGBs. When I see things like this, I start getting the whole ultimate play the game, Fairlight, play the game, Firebird conversion sort of sets me into that kind of mode of thinking, and I start to get, monochrome sweats and everything. Yeah,
do you know what this reminded me of? It reminded me again of Tien and Og.
Exactly.
However you pronounce it. So it's that, because you could go up and down through those doors, and the map would have been all over the place. But it's that Spectrum. It's just, no, just stop it. If you're going to do these things, make it look like a C64 game and not because once you're making it look like a Spectrum game, then I'll just play on the Spectrum.
And there's a few of these, isn't there, in this episode and in this issue?
There
there are. We're going to be saying this a lot. We should pre-record it.
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should just call this the Annoyed with Spectrum Graphics episodes.
Well, there's a reason to be annoyed with them, because they're stupidly crap. So just stop doing that. Just make the effort. Draw multicolour graphics on a machine that can do it.
Yes.
Do it. Just do that. Just make the effort of converting them properly. Go back in time. Let's go back in time. We'll go and speak to the people that made this game, whoever it was. Say, do you know what? We're from the future, and as much as we now have mobile phones and mobile internet and pornography at your fingertips on any device you can name, that's by the by. So we don't need Sam Fox Strip Poker for any reason, and we certainly don't need this game Core. Change the graphics to be multicolour. I know it was a long-winded way of getting to that point, but I think we should set the scene for, if we're from the future, they need to know why.
Because we need to tell them that nothing much has changed, but we live underwater.
We could say anything, couldn't we? We all live under, the whole of the earth became consumed by meat, and we have to live under the meat. We live it under the meat years. Yeah, exactly. It was this. Now we don't call it AD and things like that anymore. It's now pre-meat and post-meat.
Yeah,
which is the same thing. It's very confusing. PM and PM.
So you haven't thought this through, have you?
Obviously not. But you know what? That's life in the future. We don't think of the long-term consequences of anything.
Yeah. Or it could be that we got taken over. We live under massive pizzas, and so you'd have pre-Dominon, Anno Domino.
Oh goodness, Anno Dominoes.
That's what we live under. Massive pizzas.
Massive expensive pizzas, yeah.
So, this is rubbish, this game. It's really bad. Yeah, we didn't like this. Right, there you go. That's not a good start to this podcast.
No.
Well, it's a good start, but Superstar Ping Pong is probably the pick of those, and that's not saying much.
No, that's not saying a lot, is it?
Hopefully things will get better. I know they will get better.
It's the C64 gaming equivalent of 3 girls and 1 cup. And that's never good.
It's not, because it's going to be an 8-bit.
Oh, good Lord. No.
You're going to have to really squint to see what's going on.
Squinting at that is nothing. No more. Erase. That's it. Control-Alt-Delete.
We suddenly need to tick the explicit content.
We're from the future, and we deeply regret saying those things. We're going to have to go back and erase those things we've said. Oh, my God, the future is taking precedent in the past again.
It is done.
It is done. Footsteps. Bad footsteps.
Let's undo it. Let's end. For God's sake. That is the end of part 1. We'll be back after these short messages, so stay with us. Thanks to our sponsor, davidhenwriter.com, where you'll find dirt cheap books and audiobooks via Amazon, Kindle, Audible, and just about everywhere. As one reviewer said about Back in Time for a Donut, it's a short, fast-paced read centering on headstrong Tara and her quest to end her sister's nigh oppressive reign over Australia. Using her father's time machine, she travels back to when they were kids and attempts to find a way to derail her sister's future as Prime Minister. Unique and quirky, this read has plenty of entertaining moments, unlike Elite. Out now, audiobook voiced by Aussie star Lucy Dwyer. Visit davidhenwriter.com to find out more. Okay, welcome back. So now we're going to look at music in August 1986. We've got a lot to look at here. Probably too much, but we'll see. Because number one singles, let's have a look at those first of all. The first single we have, I think we spoke about briefly, is The Lady in Red.
Yes.
By Krista Berg. I'm not going to say much more about that because we know it's The Lady in Bread by Crispy Burger. and that's enough about that, because that was then replaced after 2 weeks by I Wanna Wake Up With You by Boris Gardner.
I know so little about Boris Gardner, or is it Gardinier? Probably Gardner.
It says Gardner. Gardinier. Is he something from a French train station?
I am Boris Gardinier.
Boris Gardiner. So he wanted to wake up with you for the last 3 weeks of August 1986.
He did. 3 weeks, that was the number one. Goodness.
Yeah. It might be longer because I don't check September, so we might roll into September as well.
Oh my gosh. What was going on in 1986 anyway?
Don't know. In our albums, we had True Blue was the first 2 weeks. We've already mentioned True Blue. We've talked about that. Mentioned previously. So we don't want to say too much about that. We have our differences, but whatever. Then we had in for the last 3 weeks, so alongside Boris Gardner, we have Now That's What I Call Music 7.
The old Now 7.
Some big tracks on that. I mean, The Lady in Red, Krista Berg is on it.
Of course it is.
Sledgehammer, Peter Gabriel, Invisible Touch, Genesis. I've just put a few here. Happy Hour, The House Martins, Look Away, Big Country, The Edge of Heaven, Wham.
So we actually mentioned all of those. So those are kind of top number one hits on there, aren't they?
Yeah. No wonder people were waiting for these and just buying them.
Yeah, they're impressive. And I mean, how many tracks were there on the albums in total? Was it about
30?
That's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I know that because I looked at briefly at the listings of all the tracks that were on there to see if I could find any real quirky ones, but it's actually got things, there's Pet Shop Boys tracks on there. There's quite a lot of contemporary of their time tracks. It must have almost killed the singles industry off, really. So
yeah, probably.
Bloody unbelievable, really. Is it not kind of shooting themselves in the foot? But there you go. We've actually debated it before, haven't we? Hence the reason they had their own chart, I think, in the end, and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, they got their own compilations chart. Would happen around about 1990, I think it was.
Yeah,
or maybe
something
earlier.
like that, yeah.
You can see why. I mean, when something like this, it's just like kind of taking stuff away from artists releasing solo albums, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, there you go. Anyway, so that's your albums, your top albums and your top singles. What new singles did we have of note? 3rd of August. In at number 28 was Anyone Can Fall in Love by Anita Dobson and the Simon May Orchestra.
Oh, gosh.
So this is the one I thought the other week. This is the one that is sung to the tune of EastEnders. Anyone can fall in love.
Yes, it is that one. Anita Dobson, obviously, was ex-EastEnders. She played Angie Watts, one of the main characters who was the vicious victim, wife-beating victim of Den Watts, Dirty Den Watts. Yeah. In the context of the show. In reality, she's married to Brian May from Queen, of course, who is a expert astronomer, and I believe what I've heard is he's a keen guitarist, young Brian. So
on the side, when he's not doing his astronomy.
When he's not doing his astronomy, apparently he likes to, play the old guitar. Probably needs a few lessons to get good, like we all do, But apparently, and he's in some kind of band. So hats off to Brian. Well done. Keep practicing, Brian. You'll probably do well.
I think the band's named after the Queen Vic.
It is, yes. It all ties in together, doesn't it? So the band's named after the Queen Vic. Yes,
it's a grand tapestry that all weaves together to tell this story of people marrying themselves.
And like any good Jedi, he's made his own guitar from the things that he found around him. So bits of wood, bits of, detritus lying around, a bit of paper, some cardboard. It's like a Blue Peter episode, some double-sided sticky tape for speed, and he was able to make himself quite a fine guitar.
Well, I was thinking he was more like a Womble.
Yes, he is, yes. That was his that was his surname prior to
Brian Tobermore, right?
He was
Tobermore May.
Yeah, exactly, yes. Brian Tobermore May made his guitar, the Red Special. There were other variants, the blue special, the pink special. The pink special was a particular... he didn't like that one particularly much. And, of course, the orange Fandango. But the main one, of course, is the red special, which he famously made from a wardrobe. He also, from what I've heard, and this is just, from what I've heard from people, very difficult to carry around a guitar made from a wardrobe because it's massive. Someone should have said to him, just trim it down a bit in scale and size. It needs to be guitar sized, not wardrobe sized. Yeah, but you know what? He was committed to what he wanted to do. Didn't hurt his chances in Queen, allegedly. So
well, the original title for one of those songs was, Fat Cupboard Guitar, and they changed it.
Do you know what baffles me, right? And there's a genuine...
Because a wardrobe is nothing but a fat cupboard.
It is a big fat cupboard. Here's a genuine question for you. Where do you think, at what point in the world, did Anita Dobson and Brian May meet? Where did that happen? Where? When did EastEnders and Queen collide?
Queen Vic. I reckon he came...
He came to the Queen Vic because it was Queen, just on a goof. Like, okay, let's go there.
He probably got confused one day. Maybe she lured him there, because he's a bit wombly, with some stuff to make some stuff with, and she was preying on him, and she got him there.
It's mad.
Or maybe he just disliked being voiced by Bernard Cribbins. I don't know.
Well, the mad thing is, the last time I saw Anita Dobson, and I don't mean this in kind of a friendly, I know a way. The last time I saw Anita Dobson, she was in the pantomime at Hull, at the Hull Theatre, which was, I want to say Cinderella. So she was playing like the Wicked Witch in that. Doesn't matter why I was at a panto. I'm not going to explain that, but that's where she was.
And you don't have any kids.
I know. I was on my own. The last time, I wasn't really. The last time I saw Brian May, and I'm not a friend of his, so it's not like I met him down the street. He was on TikTok playing along to a sea shanty. The world's gone mad, really, in lockdown. So who knows how they met, and who knows? I think they're still married. I'm reasonably sure. I haven't Googled or YouTubed that, but I'm going with the positive because every time we've announced somebody's dead or died or a marriage has failed, it's turned out not to be true. And I wouldn't want them to break up. For some reason that I can't explain, the idea of an ex-wife-beaten pub landlord from a soap opera meeting an astronomer/guitarist from a famous rock band appeals to me in many ways.
Indeed. Well, I think what's happened is their hair has become so entangled, they can never be separated.
It is. Well, they have the same hair because they wear the same wig. I think that's what it is.
Then they married each other. They married the same person.
They did.
Anyway, anyone could fall in love. Even Anita Dobson and Brian May.
Well, as an aside, if you take Anita Dobson as a series of letters, add a few, change a few, move it around, you get Brian May. So it's not a perfect anagram, obviously. No, it isn't. Not in any way, shape or form. But you could get quite close. You could probably have Benita Oberon or something like that. And as we know, that was Brian May's name before he changed it to Brian May. It doesn't matter. It's just,
Benita Oberon. La Benita Oberon.
I'm guessing from the letters I've seen, 3 seconds. Somebody will correct me on that. There's probably a much better countdown conundrum out of Anita Dobson than Anita Benita, to be fair, which is just really taking one letter and popping that at the beginning of the name. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. There's Tanya Bodson.
Well, funnily enough, Tanya Bodson... No, I'm joking.
No, right. In at number 62 was You Give Love a Bad Name by Bob Jovi.
Yes, good old Bon Jovi. Good track, that, from Slippery When Wet.
It is a good track.
It is.
It was in so low at number 62. I thought it'd be higher.
It gets higher, I think. It may be. But there is an interesting fact about that track.
Go on then.
So, You Give Love a Bad Name was actually, the Bon Jovi version is written by Richie Sambora, Bon Jovi, and Desmond Child. Desmond Child is the producer of that album, is a famous rock producer. He actually wrote that song originally for Bonnie Tyler. So, but the original version wasn't called You Give Love a Bad Name. It's actually called If You Were a Woman, in brackets, and I Was a Man. And you can YouTube that. There's a YouTube version, and you'll actually hear... It's not exactly the same, but you'll hear how the basic construction of the verse and chorus is essentially You Give Love a Bad Name in its tonality and its construction. Even stronger then, a recent track is by Ava Max called Kings and Queens, which when I heard it on the radio, I thought that sounds a lot like You Give Love a Bad Name. That's weird. Ironically, that's also written by Desmond Child, based upon You Give Love a Bad Name. So the 3 songs are actually the same song, rewritten 3 times. Desmond Child's just making, a mint off those 3 tracks.
He's got one tune.
Yeah, he's got one tune in his head. He just keeps reworking it. 3 people have recorded that. It sounds slightly different each time, but it's essentially You Give Love a Bad Name. So you can decide, maybe we'll post the YouTube clips on our Facebook page and maybe we will on the website. You can decide which you think is the best. Is it Bonnie Tyler's version? And by the way, in that video, she's got enormous hair. It's massive. It's bigger than Bon Jovi's hair. It's the competition of the big hair. Ava Max doesn't have the big hair, but she has the elaborate video. Very modern, very slick, very polished. Just go and check it out. See what you think. I still like the Bon Jovi version, but I'm a huge Richie Sambora fan. He's my favourite guitarist, so I am slightly jaded by that. But isn't that interesting that Bonnie Tyler sang the original version of You Give Love a Bad Name, albeit with a different title? There you go.
That is interesting. Thank you.
There you go. I thought so.
If you're still listening.
Desmond Child is listening right now going, maybe I should record a 4th version.
What could he call it?
You Give Eggs a Bad Name.
Broken the shell.
And you're to blame.
To blame. You give eggs
a bad name.
Anyway, right, number 72. The Ultimate Sin and Lightning Strikes by Ozzy Osbourne. I couldn't tell you anything about this. I just saw it and went, Ozzy Osbourne's got another single out. Number 8.
Well, just before you move on, let me just tell you that you need to YouTube that.
No, do I?
Because if you ever want to wonder what Ozzy Osbourne looks like if he's eaten slightly too many pies, then he's a little bit ample in that video.
Ample.
And I think it's worth checking it out. Yeah. As Ozzy Osbourne in brackets, carriage size. 72.
I will give him a check.
He's a little bit portly in that, to say the least. He's still Aussie, and his hair is just wild. But it's very Ozzy Osbourne. But when I watched the video, I was like, goodness gracious, Ozzy, slow down on the old egg rolls. Goodness me.
Oh dear. Well, I'll have a look at some point. And at number 80 was Pretty in Pink, 1986, from the Psychedelic Furs.
Isn't she Pretty in Pink?
A re-release. I thought it would be a re-release because it's got 1986 against it. It's amazing how they can count it as a new release. Maybe it never got in the charts previously.
Yeah, it was off their 1981 album, so who knows?
Yeah. Is a J. That's the one. Now, this next one, I put this in here. It is their debut single. It's just I Just Died in Your Arms by the Cutting Crew. It's in at number 96.
It is.
So we'll talk a bit more about this in the film and TV section in the next episode. So I'll leave this one alone for the moment. Just that this one has particular memories for me for certain reasons.
Okay.
We'll come to that. We'll come to that in the next episode.
Okay.
On 10th of August, Girls and Boys from Prince and the Revolution in at number 27.
Again, another single from the Parade album.
I'll take your word for it. I know so little about Prince and everything.
Girls and Boys is from
him.
the Parade album, Prince and the Revolution. It's actually a good single off that. One of the better ones. It's also from Prince's directorial debut film, Under the Cherry Moon. Have you ever watched Under the Cherry Moon?
No, I saw Purple Rain and vowed never to watch Prince again.
Purple Rain's actually good because of its live section, but Under the Cherry Moon isn't great. So just so you know, it tied for Worst Picture of All Time, Worst Picture Award with Howard the Duck in the 7th Golden Raspberry Awards, but fortunately it did win the Worst Actor, which was Prince, and the Worst Director, which was Prince. So not great, and it's actually won other awards as well in that. So it's considered a bit of a stinker. It actually made money, so it wasn't like it was a flop, but it was. I think people were going into it expecting a kind of a new Purple Rain, and what they got was kind of the purple one from a Quality Street tin. So not the same thing, not the same thing at all. So.
The big purple one.
Yes, a bit of a bummer.
Yeah. In at number 53 was Adorations by Killing Joke from the 6th Killing Joke album. I didn't know they had that many albums.
They've got so many albums.
Well, the only song I really know by Killing Joke is Love Like Blood. But for many, many years, in fact, until only recently, I knew it was called Love Like Blood, but I thought the chorus said, "It's not like that." And I have no idea why. That's what I thought he was singing. It's not like that. It's not like that. That's what I heard. And it was only recently when I think I was just listening to it on YouTube, and I was like, he's not saying that.
No.
I've been wrong all my life.
They're a strange band, aren't they, Killing Joke? Because they sit in that kind of post-punk / industrial camp a little bit.
And a bit gothy as well.
Yeah, exactly. But I actually think that very much depends on the albums you listen to, where they sit. Because the later albums seem more industrial. The middle albums seem a bit more post-punk goth. Their early albums, I'm not so sure. And this particular track, I didn't feel like it sat in any of those. I'm not sure where it lies. It was a bit, I don't know. The tracks I'd heard prior to this from Killing Joke were nothing like Adoration, so I don't know. I've not heard the album Brighter Than a Thousand Suns. I've never gone back to the 6th Killing Joke album. I don't go back that far. So that's too many. That's going too far. I think they were formed in 1980, believe it or not. So, this is 6 years in from their formation. There's already been a lineup change, I think, for a live show, so I'm not sure. I wasn't a huge Killing Joke fan. I think I had a Killing Joke CD, and I think I got that on the strength of one track that was on a industrial compilation because I was heavily into that kind of stuff at the time. And it sounds nothing like Adoration, so there you go.
Is this like early Ministry?
Yeah, very much. This is a bit early Ministry sounding. Well,
as in when Ministry were a bit
Depeche Mode, yeah, when they were going for their everyday Halloween phase, which we don't talk about at all. So
we should though.
We probably will at some point, but
talk about it more. In at number 96 was the Fourth Rendezvous by Yomi El Ya.
Yes, and you know which one that is?
It's the one that goes do 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 do
do do do do do.
Yes, I know
that's
one.
Rendezvous Part 4. Yeah,
that one. Yeah, I know that one.
Yeah, that one.
17th of August, A Question of Time by Depeche Mode. It's just a question of time.
Not the greatest.
It's not one of the better singles. It's okay. I mean, okay, Depeche Mode is still good, but it's not up there with the greats.
No.
This will go higher. I reckon this is going to be number one soon. I'm sure this gets to number one. Don't Leave Me This Way in at number 28 by the Communards.
Yes.
That was a massive song, wasn't it?
It was Jimmy Somerville and his falsetto.
Yeah.
And I believe, is it Vince Neil was behind this somewhere, or is something to do with
it? Not Vince Neil. That'd be very weird.
Who is Vince Neil?
He's in Motley Crue.
But not him.
You mean Vince Clarke?
Vince Clarke, that's the one. Oh, Vince Neil.
I really wish Vince Neil was behind this. There's all the falsetto. Could be.
So Vince Clarke, yes.
Don't leave me this way.
Is he something to do with it? Vince Clarke / Neil?
I'm not sure at this stage what Vince Clarke is up to.
Because I have a feeling a lot of these sort of bands
I thought he was in
where
you've got
at
this point.
Well, he is, but I also think there's a little bit of this kind of electro singer with a keyboardist / vibe that was going on heavily at the time, a la Soft Cell, Yazoo, the Communards, Eurasia, and there's many others. I think he's maybe part of that. I'm not sure. We'd have to do a bit more Googling for that. But anyway, I actually quite like the Communards at this stage. Some of these tracks are pretty cool.
Did the Communards come out of Bronski Beat, or did Bronski Beat come out of Communards?
Ooh, there's a question for Google, because I don't know.
Which one was first? Which came first? The chicken, the Communard, or the Bronski egg?
I want to say Bronski Beat came first. I genuinely don't know. I could Google it right now, but you know what? I'm not going to do that.
Don't do that. Leave it to someone. Someone tell us.
No, that's
if you're listening. Tell us.
I'd have to type in words and no.
You know what you are? That's because you're a typical male.
Yeah, but just don't leave me this way.
No, I won't leave you that way, you typical male. That's Tina Turner at number 43.
There she is.
You're typical male.
You're a typical
male. Can't say words with more than one syllable without breaking them up into separate words.
No. Left a good job back in the city. Yeah, actually right.
Yeah, she does. Then there was Stuck With You by Huey Lewis and the News at number 48.
Totally forgettable blandcore, isn't it? At that point with Huey Lewis and the News.
It is, yes. I mean, I think Huey Lewis and the News had their moment on the back of Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And then,
of course, they feature in Amazon Women on the Moon. So there is that. If this is it, ooh, on the beach and he's in the sand. Selma, bring me back. Go and watch. People, by the way, if you listen to this podcast, I advise you now, immediately, seek, find, otherwise purchase or seek out Amazon Women on the Moon and watch it. It's not for everyone, but I think you might find something in there that will give you a chuckle. If for any other reason, there's at least comic stuff and boobs in it, so you're bound to find something for that.
And also, you'll probably get about 50% of
all of a sudden, it'll all make sense. Yeah, totally. Very, very influential film if you're me and AD.
Yeah, absolutely. And no one else. 24th of August, In Too Deep by Genesis at number 33. too many innuendos. Yeah.
Yes.
There is. Because then You Shook Me All Night Long, 1986 from AC/DC.
Yes. No.
From Back in Black.
No, that baffled me. Yeah, but that baffled me because that's also, it occurred to me that it's actually also on Who Made Who, their other album.
Who made whom? Who made whom?
We're going to be grammatically correct about it, yes. But it's on Who Made Whom as well. So I just wondered why they just, it was like, oh, don't bother recording a new track, just put that one on it.
Well, they just do a slightly different mix. I'm sure. What is it? Whitesnake's classic. Here We Go Again.
Yeah, there is several versions of that.
The 1980 odd version in there, and then there's the original version, which has got different lyrics.
Yes,
lyrics
different
in there,
guitar solo as well.
Yeah, it's the lyrics that make me sense, because in the new one he says, like a drifter I was born to walk alone.
He does.
But in the original he says, like a hobo. And when I first heard that, I laughed quite a lot, because that's not what I heard.
No.
And I thought, you can't get away with that.
No, you can't get away with that. And to be fair, I actually thought the second variant was a bit like likening the kind of self-loneliness he's describing to a bi-stick chocolate bar. And I thought drifters are quite nice. So I was like, no, do you know what? If you're gonna mock
like a whisper, I was born to walk alone.
If you're gonna mock the duo deliciousness of a dual stick chocolate bar, then just use Twix, because Twix has been around longer. It can take it. Drifter was in its early days back then. Now, don't be knocking. And Drifters are nicer, I think, than a Twix. So.
Yeah, and don't forget the new kids on the block. Your twirls and your Spyros.
Exactly. Yes. So like a Spyro. Twix doesn't fit, does it? Like a Twix. It's just not enough syllables, is it?
It ends too quickly.
Yeah, that's why they didn't choose it. So he just chose Drifter because, God damn it, pick the right chocolate bars. Bloody hell.
Absolutely. Yorkie had too many connotations.
Like a Yorkie, I was born to walk alone. I'm
like
saying
Snickers,
nothing.
Marathon.
Snickers. Marathon's too many.
Yeah. What else? I don't know what else would fit. Spyro would fit. But
like a Mars bar, I was born to walk alone.
Like a Fudge.
Bounty. Actually, I've just realised how many bi-syllable chocolate bars there actually are. Wow. Okay. If that's not the most boring thing for somebody to discover ever, I don't know what is. Let's move swiftly on, quick.
That's Graham's. What's the word? It begins with E. I can't remember the word now. Epiphany moment for the podcast.
Yes, I believe it was. Yeah. Wow.
Because at number 50 is "Word Up" by Cameo. Word Up. I always like the Gun version of that song.
I didn't know Gun did a version of it.
They did, and it's very good.
Okay.
Yes, they did.
Is that the only good thing Gun ever did?
Probably. I always like that version of it. I thought it was good.
I just never thought I'd hear the fact that you like a Gun track come out of your actual mouth.
They may have had a gun to my head, I don't know. This was quite the thing, though, and at number 59 was Rock and Roll Mercenaries by Meatloaf with John Parr.
That YouTube clip is inexplicable. I couldn't understand it. I had what can only be described as a brain wrong watching it. It made no sense in any capacity.
I couldn't understand Meatloaf trying to look sexy.
I couldn't understand Meatloaf.
It was like a knockoff rock. Was it? I thought that it was some kind of piss take of the Robert Plant video.
Yeah, I thought that till it was
not Robert
clearly
Plant. Robert Palmer. Robert crossed my Palmer with silver.
That could be Robert Plant. He might have done something like
Robert Palmer, the Addicted to Love. Because those women that were sat around the table in the video...
looked like it, didn't they? Yeah,
they looked like that. But then you had them with sort of slick back hair and trying to look sexy. And John Parr and Meatloaf.
No. Because I can't think of Meatloaf without thinking of Robert Paulson from Fight Club.
Yeah, that is true.
So I can't. He has a name. And if Robert Paulson went and made a video, that would be the video he made. And it's horrific beyond measure. It's awful. I didn't know Meatloaf could play guitar, and after that video, I'm convinced he can't.
Well, I'm pretty sure he could. But he just employed people to do it because he was just far too happy looking sweaty and meaty.
Yeah, well, he is a man loaf. He's a meat man loaf. He is all man loaf, that one.
He's full on meatloaf.
He's all meatloaf.
Yeah.
Where's the meatloaf? No. I thought that was weird, really weird.
It is a weird one. I'd never heard of it before. It's a bad title as well. Rock and Roll Mercenaries. Just sounds like, you're trying too hard. In fact, you're raging hard. 31st of August, Rage Hard by Frankie Goes to Hollywood, in at number 6. Is Rage Hard off the second album?
Yes, because it's definitely not on Welcome to the Pleasure Dome.
It's not. So this is where the rot is set in, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Rage Hard is not a great song.
No, it's not good. And also, because for many reasons, the least of which is that the lead singer of Frankie Goes to Hollywood, who up till this point been quite good, this is not his finest moment, is it? This is Holly Johnson's.
Holly Johnson, yeah.
He sings the whole song in a kind of a deep register. It's really strange. It's like, Rage Hard. It's really weird.
It's not a great song.
No, and it's hard to track down the original one that was released at the time because, like, in KLF style, there's about 9 trillion remixes of it. So it's really hard to find them. Yeah, there's loads out there. Loads and loads and loads.
Oh. Well, because, I don't think Holly Johnson would do anything good until he went solo with Love Train and whatever it was. I like Love Train, his solo stuff.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves too far. Even that's not great. He was good in Frankie Goes to Hollywood. His later stuff.
A couple of his solo bits are all right. Anyway, Wasted Years in at number 24. Iron Maiden in at number 24 with Wasted Years. This is such a boring song, but only worth it to watch long-haired men play football briefly. That football bit in the video had me howling. It's had me laughing for ages.
Yeah, there's all sorts of sporting endeavours in there. And there's a bit of fencing.
Bruce Dickinson had to do a bit of fencing because he's a keen fencer, as what I've heard.
Yeah, champion fencer apparently.
But that guitar solo goes on forever.
It does. And
the bass is so high in the mix as ever.
Well, it's Iron Maiden. You know what you're going to get with Iron Maiden, and this is actually, oddly enough, I think it's not a track I'd heard a lot. But on revisit, I thought, actually, this is a pretty good track. It's typical Iron Maiden in every respect, but it's a bit more self-reflective than other Iron Maiden tracks. I realised as well that their drummer is the flattest faced man on the planet.
Oh, he has, and he also steals a hat from a child in this video.
Yeah, he does, and it was all a bit, fun, and I would imagine, and later down the line, I'm not sure how soon it is after this, but Iron Maiden tracks tend to go in straight to number 1. Their fan base is that big. So it's interesting. I'm not sure what album Wasted Years was off. I wanted to say Power Slave. I don't think it is though, but the Power Slave imagery appears in the video, so I genuinely don't know.
Is Power Slave Dickinson?
Yeah, because it's got the flash of the blade on Power Slave and stuff like that. So it could be. You know what? I don't even know why I know that. The long and the short of this is it's a kind of classic Iron Maiden track. Heavy on riff, high bass in the mix, and lots of kind of Bruce Dickinson kind of vocals. The video is hilarious though. There was some big hair going on in the video playing football. The only wasted years that happened was me looking back on how often I'd listened to Iron Maiden through the years, thinking they are shit, and then realizing that I just wasted my life.
Yeah, I wasted my life.
So exactly. But there we are.
I was hoping when I listened to it there was going to be a really unsubtle rhythm change at some point, but I was disappointed.
Yes, they managed to avoid that little trick, didn't they?
Did.
Those scamps.
And at number 29 was Thorn in My Side by the Eurythmics.
My thorn in my side. Good track by them. Very good pop track. Weird. It's got a weird chorus, I always think, for that. To run away from you, run, run, run. Weird. Unusual. Not for them particularly unusual, but weird. I can't remember what album that's from. I don't know.
Probably the one we talked about, the one that came into the chart through the week.
I think it is. I think it's off that. But
I would imagine.
They didn't release a lot of singles, so it's probably the second and only single off that album, but there you go.
In at number 37, Walk This Way by Run DMC / Aerosmith.
Yes.
So this was a massive song, wasn't it? This was, as you put it, rightly so, sort of reignited, shall we say, Aerosmith's career.
It did.
Which was a bit in the doldrums at this point. Kind of like what would happen with Heart as well, when Heart had the sort of big 80s bombast come back.
Yes,
so this really did do. I mean, this was everywhere in every club that we went to forever after.
Yeah, it still is kind of on the playlist, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a classic, this one.
It is, and what's interesting about this is that I didn't realise till I looked into it a bit more that I had actually had Toys in the Attic, which is the album that it was from, the original Aerosmith recording. I didn't realise that was recorded so early. I didn't think that Toys in the Attic by Aerosmith was within 1975. So Walk This Way is actually kind of a revolutionary track for 1975 because it sounds like nothing else. Let's allied the kind of rap breakbeat stuff that goes on with Run DMC's version. That's actually a pretty interesting track in of itself. And that's Aerosmith's third album at that point. And this is actually, interestingly enough, as far as Aerosmith are concerned, where the rot was already starting to set in. So at this point, the band started to fall out. They didn't really like each other. And it all fell apart on the live tours, I think, ultimately, where it all kind of went crazy. So there is a lot of disdain in 1975 in the band when they're recording this particular track and how it came to be. There's loads of stuff on YouTube, on Google that you can find out about that. Go do that. What's interesting about this resurgence is that it really did come back with a bang. It landed Aerosmith back in popular mainstream in a way that was kind of crazy. And I think even if I was honest, absolutely honest, this was the track that got me into Aerosmith, because I never really heard much Aerosmith prior to this. This is the one that really put them on my radar back then. And then from there, I went to find Permanent Vacation and Pump, and then all the previous albums like Done With Mirrors and Toys in the Attic. So this was kind of the single that really awoke them for me, and I'm guessing for a lot of other people too. And like you say, it then became kind of everywhere, and even to the point where it was used in the film The Lost Boys. So,
which was around about the same time, wasn't it? But yeah, I mean, it's just a huge track. You'd always hear it down now.
Yeah, as soon as you hear that, boom, boom, that kind of breakbeat, diddle 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 diddle.
And I think it was also as well. It coincided very handily with having a very good video and MTV.
Yeah. Because didn't they famously in the video?
Over. There was smashed through the paper wall.
There's Run DMC on one side of the theatre stage, and there's Aerosmith on the other, and Aerosmith hear them singing their song and then bash their way through. And I remember watching that with you on Raw Power / Power Hour on ITV.
Yeah, probably.
I did. I remember sitting there with you watching that late at night eating crisps. So I remember that.
What flavour were they?
I think we were actually eating Skips.
Sure, it wasn't Bobby Spirals.
Oh, it could have been. It could have been something like that. But I remember eating a lot of clatty foods.
No, just to say that we do say the name Bobby a lot, and Bob this, but there was actually a crisp maker that we used to eat called Bobby's. Bobby's Spirals, and they were the saltiest, vinegarist crisps you could ever taste.
They were those, but they had a lot of flavour in them, didn't they?
There was all the salt and all the vinegar.
But yeah, I remember
a full chip shop.
Staying up till about 2:30 in the morning at my house to watch Power Hour / Raw Power. I can't remember what they called it at that point, but I remember watching it because, as we'll come to later, this ties into this kind of TV going, music box TV being on ITV at the time. But I remember watching that. I remember specifically watching that with you, and then later also we watched the Aerosmith video for Dude Looks Like a Lady, which meant you were at my house very late at night.
I was always at your house very late at night.
You were, yes.
We were. We always were.
Yes, so filling my bedroom with gaseous smells. Yes.
I had to earn my keep somehow.
Yeah, and I ended up bald, and now I know why.
And I have a luxurious head of hair. Because my bedroom was so fresh.
Fresh.
Well, yours was pungent and oily.
Pungent, oily, and dripping with fart gas.
Well, the thing was, as well, you didn't have any wall space for it to all to absorb away, because it was just reflected back with 1,000 posters.
Yeah, I had no free space on my walls. Every inch of that wall space was covered in posters. Not all of them good posters. So.
I would say that 95% of them weren't good.
Yes, that's true. Later they got a little bit better with some of the film posters, but at this point in time, I think I had
aliens one, didn't you?
I had an alien looking through a doorway. I had the ninja saying "Galactic eyes, sharp as Takagi, ninjas iron claws see beyond." Why I remember that? Not Haikyuu, because it's meant to be, but it's not.
Loads of Halloween ones.
Loads of Halloween. I've actually got a picture somewhere. It captures a little bit of the wall. Maybe I'll post that on the YouTube. Mm-hmm. I keep saying YouTube, but it's not going on YouTube. Maybe I'll post it on the website. So anyway.
It's most somewhere. Anyway, hold on tight, people, because at number 39, we've got Hold On Tight by Samantha Fox.
No memory of that song, but I'm guessing it sounds like Touch Me, I want to feel your body. So it's Hold On Tight.
I reckon it's got loads of denim in the video as well,
tight-fitting denim, yeah, and
probably
cleavage, yeah.
At number 48, Wild Wild Life by Talking Heads.
It's not a great. It's not their great track. It's a good track, but it's not a great track.
Yeah, it's not the greatest.
Yeah.
In at number 90. Now I was surprised this was so low, because this became quite big.
I think it got to number 1. I think it went back.
It really did. This was You Can Call Me Al by Paul Simon. Now, I don't know whether it was a re-release that got massive, or whether it was actually this release. I don't know. But yes, and you put the video with Chevy Chase, where I realised that he's in fact a giant.
He is massive.
Or Paul Simon is very small.
Both. That
could be one of either.
It was revelation. I mean, my experience, because I have to say, my experience of Paul Simon up to this point had always been kind of piss-taking. So I'd seen a Paul Simon variant in Spitting Image. And I believe there was a Paul Simon sort of Mickey take, but I can't remember which TV entertainer did it. It might have been a Little and Large. But I remember one of them playing the guitar, but sort of sat on their knees, so it made it with shoes, so it made it look like they had really tiny and then like a really tall one. I can't remember who did that.
Well, Simon and Garfunkel was supposed to be, I guess.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so they were doing Bright Eyes, but obviously Garfunkel was like a giant and Simon was on. And then when this video came out, and I realised, because Chevy Chase is massive, he's like 6'7" or something crazy. He's really tall. So he made Paul Simon look tiny, like a miniature version of him. And then, of course, the song became very popular. And I think, is it off the Graceland album? I think I can't remember. It possibly is.
It is, yeah. Because that album was pretty massive in the mid 80s.
Oh, it's huge, yeah. Massively popular album. And that song, particularly, even now, every now and again, it's played on the radio. So it's still a big track, I think.
It is. That's why I was surprised it only went in number 90. And I don't know whether it was a re-release that made it big or whether this will just climb up. I suppose we will see over the next few weeks.
We will see how it plays out for Mr. Simon.
We will indeed. That's your singles. What we got for albums? 3rd of August, Rat in the Kitchen by UB40.
Yes.
At number 8.
What are we gonna do? There's a rat in me kitchen.
I don't know.
That's the only bit I know.
I thought I should mention it because it was a new album and at number 8. I don't like UB40. Because at number 10 there was Flaunt It by CC Sputnik.
No, we've spoke about them before. I have literally almost no memory of ZZ Sputnik apart from the name.
I remember them being in the papers as this thing. Yeah. And then there was supposed to be this, big produced whatever thing. They were. Yeah. And they were supposed to be all outrageous and, oh my God, lock up your daughters and all this kind of nonsense. Yeah. And then they were just crap. But hey ho. At number 21, we had Orgasmatron from Motorhead.
I didn't YouTube it.
I don't want to think of anything orgasmic about Motorhead and Lemmy. It's just an awful thought.
No, with that big sort of wart on his face, no.
I mean, bless him. He's passed on. I'm pretty sure he has passed away. I'm right about that one. Just consider, I think everyone's dead that we talk about. And then it doesn't matter. Because that could be wrong or right.
Well, in
everybody
that particular...
to me is Schrodinger.
In that particular instance with Paul Lemmy, you are 100% accurate. He sadly passed away, leaving a legacy of many, many tongued women and many, many orgasmically controlled orgasmatrons and many great tracks behind him. Some not so great, but I'll forgive them all for things like Ace of Spades and many, many others. So.
10th of August, we had The Bridge, was the only new album of any note, from Billy Joel in at number 38. And it was his 10th album.
10th. 10 albums. 10.
He was shocked. You get shocked that he's got 10 albums out at this point.
I was shocked that he's got 10 albums because I think to myself, when I think Billy Joel, I think Uptown Girl, which must be
the one with Uptown Girl on it.
No, it's not. This is no, it's not. That's what. But I'm like, how many albums does somebody have before they ever hit? But he was huge in America and Canada, I think. So Uptown Girl and the follow-up to Uptown Girl, which was, I can't remember the name of that single, and then, of course, the famous one for Billy Joel is We Didn't Start the Fire, isn't it? That's the kind of the one that everyone remembers him for. That and
big
Uptown
in Canada
Girl.
Sort of thing. They call him Canada's Elton John.
Yeah.
Tickles the ivory.
And the irony of it is...
by the way.
I think they should. And in the song We Didn't Start the Fire, by his own explanation, he clearly did start all those fires. So it's a song about a guy admitting that he's a pyromaniac. And I embrace that and admire it. Anyone that sings songs about their own deficiencies, that's always good. No, but he could have just called it, I have set fire to things and set people on fire and it's horrible. But no, he made a jolly song about it. Good on him. Good on him. Well done, sir. Well done.
Like the Prodigy did. They were honest.
He was a twisted fire starter. He was.
Indeed. 17th of August, straight in at number 1 was Now That's What I Call Music 7.
Yeah, of course it was.
But keeping, there was one at number 2, but at number 3, there was Dancing on the Ceiling by Lionel Richie.
Lionel Rich T. Good old Lionel Rich T.
Lionel Rich T. He was dancing on the ceiling, he was.
Yeah, it's a nice song. It's nice.
It is. Isn't it? I don't know what else is on the album, but I know that track. Everyone knows Dancing on the Ceiling.
Yeah. What a feeling.
When you're dancing on the ceiling, indeed. 24th of August, and number 6 was Silk and Steel by 5 Star.
There they are. 5 Star.
Yep, there they are. And Kicking Against the Prick against at number 89 as Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
I don't listen to a lot of Nick Cave.
You're not a fan of it?
I know one track, which is the one he did with Kylie, and I don't think that's with the Bad Seeds. I think that's Nick Cave and Kylie Minogue. That's sad, isn't it? I have a feeling it's probably got some really great stuff out, but I don't know even what it would sound like. Yeah,
Nick Cave is one of those. I've listened to some bits and bobs, but it's never sort of gelled with me. It's never connected. So, it's just one of those artists that is very well renowned, but it's not for me. I think it's just something about it. It's not for me. But he was in it there at number 89 in 1986. 31st of August, In the Army Now from Status Quo, straight in at number 7.
It's not the greatest status quo moment. Yeah, it's not good, that. It's not great. We're in the army now. Yeah, no more.
No,
I'm not going to say any more about it.
Life's Rich Pageant is a final album by REM at number 43.
Is that which album? Where does that fall in their lineage of albums?
That's their 4th or 5th.
Whoa, okay.
Like Killing Jokes, I think they started early 80s, 80, 81.
Yeah, it's just
so
that's
I didn't
incredible.
recognise any tracks off it. I looked at it and I was like, I don't know any tracks off this.
No, and it just means it's the 5th album from REM I can ignore because I don't like REM at all. So I know.
You're not an REM fan?
No, I am not. I think that if you put REM on a colour chart and went like a bit like you do with the colour wheel and looked at the opposite of what REM are in terms of their colour spectrum, music spectrum, you would see Ministry, and that's what I liked. So
but on a colour wheel, you want things that are opposite to sort of really make them both spark. So if you put Ministry and REM on a in a bill together, that'd be quite the night.
Well, if you think of REM sang "It's the End of the World as We Know It," and Ministry sang, New World Order and songs that were basically about destruction and death, and it actually sounded like it with them. Songs like "Breathe" by Ministry and stuff like that, they appealed more to me as a kind of end of the world soundtrack than REM's twiddlings of "It's the end of the world as we know it." Give me Ministry's version. No, this is the world. Da, 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 da. It's not working. Da, da, much more obvious. That appealed to me more than REM's kind of diddlings. But you know what? People like REM, they do. What does REM stand for, actually?
Well, I guess it's Rapid Eye Movement, isn't it?
Stupid name for a band that doesn't make sense.
Well, it's when you're dreaming, isn't it? When you're awake, it's dream state. You have Rapid Eye Movement.
Could be Rapid Egg Movement. That would be more interesting.
It could be. Rancid egg movement.
The deliberate transport of eggs at speed. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. I've gone mad. But so there you go. That was that. I didn't think much to that REM track, but that's me.
That's you. Right, on that note, let's end the music there because we've talked about a lot of music. That's your music there for August 1986. Stay with us. We'll be back after this message with the last section of games for this episode. See you in a bit.
And a shout out to our sponsor, DavidHearnWriter.com, where you'll find bargain books and audiobooks. As one reviewer said about the case of the notorious roboticist, I highly recommend this novel. It has some truly amazing world building. It is fast paced and well written with plot twists and turns the whole way through. A truly awesome read. Dave's podcast pick is Shogun. He loved playing as Bandit Blood with Yoko in tow, knocking off the nobles to stop them becoming Shogun as he befriended, bribed and bashed his way to the top. His rating, 98% and a gold medal. The ninjas are on their way, Dave.
Okay, welcome back. It's the last section, so let's get on with these games. We've got a budget one next. It was £1.99 and it's still only got 9%. So, this is Groovy Garden.
Eek.
I don't even know where to start with this one. What I don't want, though, is a game to tell me to press spray to play on the title screen. It was just all wrong. It was horrible. I was like, oh. I didn't get very far in this. I didn't know what it is. It's some kind of vegetarian, vegan-inspired Greenpeace-style Space Invaders Galaxians knockoff thing. To me, it felt like someone's first game. Like, let's make a game. Was. And so you've got blocky enemy sprites with 2 frames of animation, a shot up by what looks like a turkey baster from the bottom of the screen. There's supposed to be these... are they supposed to be like germs or vegan? What are they things floating about? There's supposed to be some kind of vegetarian nonsense.
They are creatures.
And I don't say vegetarianism is nonsense. I say they are they're just things. They're just these... It's all to do with gardening and it's just rubbish. It's a shoot 'em up. It's a single screen, shoot 'em. There's these ferns that are growing that you've got to keep your something topped up. It's rubbish. It's a terrible game. It's terrible sound effects. The graphics were crap. $1.99 and 35 years later, and the game still annoyed me. There's nothing. I'm not going to say too much about this because I didn't play it for very long because I didn't want to. It just felt, I had about 2 goes at it. I was like, that's enough. I'm done. I'm not wasting my time on this crap. And it was crap. It was utter rubbish. It just feel like no point. Weirdly enough, there's a garden. There's like some bloke walks out at the beginning, like, looked like he's mowing the lawn, so I felt like it was going to be some kind of weird hover bother type nonsense. But it wasn't. It was worse. A lot worse. Did you enjoy it?
No, I thought it was utter shit.
There we go.
I'm not going to go on about it too much at all. I'll just say that the idea of the game was that I thought it looked like a syringe, or conversely, like some kind of pump that people use to do enemas with.
Or a turkey baster.
Any of those options would
or
apply.
Or a turkey, anything.
So it's just
whatever.
to shoot 'em up with those with the graphic change. So instead of aliens, you've got whatever the hell those creatures are. You're in a garden and you could fire a spray gun of sorts, but it's actually not that. It's kind of an injection, I think, or a syringe. Mm-hmm. And you've actually got to shoot them for long enough for pine trees to grow, albeit very tiny pine trees to grow at the bottom of the garden. I'm still not 100% sure why a blind manic miner guy walked across the bottom of the screen at any point, or how that related to it. Likewise, I'm not sure exactly how my energy levels were interlinked with this game, or it made no sense whatsoever. I just thought it was utter crap. It had really crap graphics. I felt like it was a really bad and blocky and rubbish unsuccessful version of the Spectrum game, Psst, which I think was an early Ultimate game. So it was just crap.
Yeah,
and 9% was generous, I thought. This was just, I actually have to say, I think it was one of the worst games we've ever played on this podcast. It was utterly awful.
Yes, it was terrible. And, another thing that annoyed me about it, I don't like single colour sprites mixed with multicolour sprites.
No.
Pick a graphic style and stick with it. Pick one.
Do it.
Make everything. Yeah, if the sprites that were bouncing about, okay, but if you were what you were shooting them with had more colour in it rather than some high res syringe, it just was all this just felt like to me like somebody had made it and they went, oh, that'll do. Just stick it out for £2. There you go.
Absolutely.
It's fine.
Absolutely.
People will buy it.
Yeah, it had weird anomalies in this game. I didn't realise until I looked into it that it's actually got some kind of faith system. So if the sleeping gardener wakes up and he lights his window up, then your faith is restored. I don't get what that even means in the context of growing pygmy pines and shooting creatures. Just sod off with this stupid game and never make it happen again. Never, ever. And no matter how much, and even that opening screen with that word groovy kind of wobbling around with sprites, just, no, I've seen far too many demos that do that better. Just get lost, you stupid, crappy game.
Yeah, Gravy Garden.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be more interesting.
Put it in a grave.
But at least this one was a game, not much like our next one.
No.
Now we have spoken about this briefly before because we mentioned it and you went off and played it. I say played in massive bunny ears inverted commas. This is Tubular Bells. So we spoke about this with the Crapvert and you went off and investigated it and we wondered if it was ever going to get released and reviewed, and well, here it is, and for some reason it's got 44%. I am of absolute... I don't understand it, but I know you told us about this before, but what's Tubular Bells, Graham?
Let's just do it very quickly because there's no game here. This isn't a game. This is essentially a editable or a configurable screensaver for the Commodore 64 that plays graphical images a la kind of lines flitting about the screen, multicolored lines and effects, and kind of like the visualizations you used to get on things like Winamp, if you remember that, and that kind of thing. So it does that on an 8-bit version, all to the beautiful sound of an 8-bit version of Tubular Bells. So, and you can change the so you get a list of commands at the beginning of this. So I don't get how this got 44% and I certainly don't understand how anyone had the stones to charge $7.95 for this. But essentially, it loaded up and you could then choose it gave you kind of a list of keyboard controls and things that you could change the visualizations as the music played. And that's it. There's nothing more to it than that. It's just a visualization of an 8-bit version of Tubular Bells. The music in this was by Graham Jarvis and Rob Hartshorn. They're not names I'm super familiar with, but they also, just so you know, did the music for Ian Botham's Test Match, the recent Fairlight game that we looked at, the Blade Runner game based on the soundtrack of the film, which we did make a point of saying the music was shite.
We did.
And the Rocky Horror game on the C64. So, yeah, it's not what you'd call a great thing. So this is just a graphic experiment, really. And it's playing on the back of... I know I can't remember when Tubular Bells was released. I think it's a long time before this. So, but Tubular Bells is one of those albums. It's obviously by Mike Oldfield. It's one of those albums that kind of disappears and reappears and disappears and reappears and disappears. It's kind of because it is genuinely quite an innovative, good album. And it's quite interesting and it's beautiful, and the whole recording of it and the fact that he's a multi-instrumentalist. There's so much meat on the Tubular Bells bones that you could go and dive into that. My advice would have been, don't spend $7.95 on a C64 graphic thing unless you're planning on having lots of house parties, and this kind of thing might have wowed your party guests back in 1986. Just get the album, go and buy the album and play it. At this point in time, it probably wouldn't cost much more than that on vinyl or on tape or whatever. And you'd have had a nice, interesting experience listening to the real Tubular Bells instead of this kind of crappy version. So it's just, there's no more to it than that. I can't genuinely give this a gaming review and say it's super playable, because you can just change the options of what you see on the screen and speed things up, slow things down, change it from lines to dots and different colours. It's kind of a screensaver. But maybe in 1986 it was revolutionary. I don't know. It never came across my radar before, and I've listened to most of the Mike Oldfield output from way back then and all the way through to Tubular Bells and the many variants of the sequels and things. So, did you play it and did you sit there and chill out with it? Or?
I did not. I did play it, but I didn't chill out with it. It's £8 for an early visualizer that only plays one song.
Yeah.
What's good about that? And the Tubular Bells came out in 1973, by the way.
Right, I was going to say, I knew it was way earlier in this, because it's famously the record that made Virgin Records, isn't it? It's famously, but I said there's a really interesting potted history to Tubular Bells. There's nothing to do with this game. Why this came out so long later and in this way and what it's all about, I don't know. But I have a funny feeling that the guys that were behind it, the music especially, they were just looking for old licensed music that they could kind of do a version of, and no, I suspect there are much better Commodore 64 musicians. The Mighty Bog just springs to mind immediately as somebody that was doing amazing versions of sort of synth tracks at the time, but also obviously all the major players as well as the Mighty Bog, Ben Dalglish, Rob Hubbard, Dave Whittaker, etc. They all did great tracks. These aren't great. I'd have handed it over to one of the better people if it was me. I'm not them, so no good.
No, I agree. It's not just. It's essentially just a Winamp visualizer. On the C64. Yeah. It's just all it is. It's listen to music, but it's just one song. I mean, you'd have to really like Tubular Bells to buy this, and you'd probably still be annoyed. I said, imagine if you turned off the in-game sound and played the original whilst watching this, you might get some more enjoyment out of the album, because at least you'd be hearing the actual proper album rather than that version. I mean, it's not terrible. Yeah. It's recognisable as Tubular Bells, and it's all in there. But that and some way, I can't remember what you've got that as a free screensaver on Windows. I could do this myself now. Much better. Yeah. It just seemed utterly pointless. I don't understand it. I don't understand what this is trying to be, do, or whatever. No. It's I agree. Strange thing. There you go. So that's Tubular Bells. Let's move on. We've got a couple left. So what's up first? We've got Shogun. So, Shogun by Virgin. So, we've got a link there, Tubular Bells, it's by Virgin.
We have. Nice, neat
absolutely.
segue.
So, Shogun. So, this is a strange game, is what I'm going to say right now at the start. It's a very odd game. So, it's based on James Clavell's novel, Shogun. And essentially in that book, that's a kind of stranger in a strange land story. It was turned into a TV miniseries with Richard Chamberlain, and it was a very, very popular thing around in the mid-'80s. So here we have the game version of this. And so what they've done with the game is something I'm not quite sure how to pigeonhole this, because it's flick screen, but it's not so much a collectathon, it's a recruit 'em up.
It is. Very much so.
Essentially, but there's some weird anomalies, some weird things to this game, which are not like many other games I've seen. So this It looks very nice. I thought it looked quite nice. Let's start off with the positives here. So the graphics are pretty nice. The sprites are quite colourful. There's a lot of colour to it. It's using the C64's colour palette in a very nice way. So you've got that quite every flick screen is kind of a nice and slightly surreal and weird Japanese tone to it. So it kind of looks a bit unusual. It doesn't look like a lot of other games. It's certainly better than that god awful Willow pattern.
And at least this one is not on crockery.
It's not based on crockery, no, for God's sake. Sound effects are a little sparse, but they do the job. You can play as any of the game's characters, which I thought was quite interesting. So you don't have to play as the main character from the book. You can play as pretty much anyone, including servants, to the shoguns, the lord himself, whatever. So the whole point...
Loads of 40 of them,
there is. So you choose which one you want to play at the beginning. And then it says... and this I had to reload at some point because then you get the choice between game or demo. And
how long did that take to get right?
That's the thing, doesn't it? It flashes between white and red. So game will flash, white, red. But this gives you no indication of which one is which. Which one is the one you're choosing?
No.
So, yeah, I got it wrong, first of all. So I put in a demo and I was like, I'm not controlling this. Oh, I have to reload it. And it takes a little bit more time to load, so it was a bit of a pain. But yeah, it's a strange, weird choice. If I want a demo, I'll just sit here. Auto run your demo is what I would say.
Yeah.
That's just me, though. Anyway, I was also not quite sure. I'm sure it does, but I'm not quite. I didn't quite understand if your choice of character affected the game in any way about how the relationships work. I wasn't quite sure. Then if you,
it does, yeah.
You can fill us in on that in a moment. Then, so the game though. So the point of the game is you've got to gain. My understanding is you've got to gain 20 followers to become the Shogun. And you gain followers by going around fighting, giving money to people, and generally using conversations and bribery. You can pick up objects. The weird thing is with this game is how you move from screen to screen, because gravity has been thrown out the window because you just float about. There's no. It's almost like they wanted to. It's like side on. It's like seen from above, but side on. I don't know how else to explain it. But you move up.
No, I agree.
You move up into the air. You fly around. There's no walking along the ground or anything. You just move around the screen. But it's seen from the side, and it feels very strange to play because you'll just go up into the air.
Yes.
You'll go. Temples will just go off from the side, which really shouldn't be there. There's a kind of weird, almost sort of psychedelic weirdness to this whole presentation of this. It's unlike many other games, and it kind of, I'm not sure, I think it's maybe a bit at odds with this sort of Japanese shogun feudal Japan style setting. I'm not sure it kind of works together. It's just a bit strange, I thought. So whilst you're moving around, floating around, and other characters are on screen, they're doing their own bit, everybody else is also trying to become Shogun, and they're trying to gain the 20 followers. So you get informed of what's going on by this little sort of message thing that comes across the middle of the screen, which just tells you this character has killed so-and-so, or this character has recruited so-and-so in the Dark Woods, or the New Palace, or whatever, and there's all kinds of weird stuff going on. It feels like a flick screen adventure, but it's not. It's more kind of a bit more open world in that there's no set way to go around it. You can go wander about and float around and do whatever you want. It's all it's got icons as well, but the icons are not as terrible as they've been in recent games that we've seen. They're okay. They work quite easily, and also as well, you press the fire button, the game kind of pauses, so you can choose, right, what do I want to do? And if you pick converse with somebody and there's another character on the same screen, it'll say, oh, do you want to converse with that person? You say yes, and mostly they'll just ignore you, or they might say whatever. It's a strange game. I don't know quite how I feel about this. I think it could get hooks into you if you let it, but I think what I felt about it was there didn't feel any kind of reward. There didn't feel any sort of any kind of progression. All I got was like some more yen, and the number of followers went up. It didn't feel like anything was actually, I was sort of leveling up or becoming something or getting better. It just felt like the same. I didn't know how the combat worked really. You just said fight, and then they were dead, or whatever. It was kind of strange. It just felt disconnected. I don't know what the kind of word I'm trying to look for here, but it just felt like there was something missing. There's like the component parts are almost there, but there's no oomph. There's no, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but it just feels just a bit too sort of, not dull, it's not the right word, but there's just something missing for me. I don't know. How did you feel? What did you think? Did you enjoy it more than I did, or did you not? Or
no, I actually struggled with it for the exact same reasons you did, which is quite interesting because I am a big fan of both the novel, the Shogun novel, which I've read many times, and also the mini-series, which I've watched many times, and in fact watched fairly recently, much to my chagrin, because I actually realised how much it was awful. But that's beside the point. That's not necessarily because of the novel. It's just based on its kind of tacky vibes that it was made on. However, there's some amazing stuff in it. So as you've rightly pointed out, this is the tale of John Blackthorne and Toranaga, and Anjin-san and Lady Mariko and all of that stuff. And the TV show has got all of those things captured, but it actually misses all of the key parts of the novel. The novel is all about honor and respect, and all of those things are very important features in the book. So when you read it, you really get that sense of samurai chivalry and honor and all of those things, and how treachery and all of those things are really an important part of the whole and sort of world of the samurai that's represented in Shogun. So I think that in actuality, instead of just being a kind of straightforward bash the samurais with swords kind of game, which they could easily have done, they opted to be more clever and went for a game where you have to try and create a list of followers, or create an army of followers, and then for the second part, once you've got that list of followers, you then try and take control of the Shogun's tower and win the game. So I think they didn't go down the obvious route, and that's to be commended. But I think, like you said, very accurately, the problem begins when you get in. So if that's the premise for the game, fine. But the game feels a little bit kind of surreal. So when you get into the game, you're kind of floating around. There's 128 screens you kind of float around. And you bump into characters that kind of are also floating around. And so you choose from one of 40 playable characters that you can select from. Now those are all characters from the novel and from the miniseries, although there's actually more in the game than the miniseries that you know of. They all have lots of sort of characteristics, so they fall into kind of nobles, samurais, peasants, servants, bandits, and priests, and they all have different kind of skills and attributed things that are attributed to those particular kind of characters that you play. So some are going to attract certain kinds of followers, some aren't. So that does actually feature in the game. There is that whole logic behind it, around that.
Okay.
The kind of character that you are very much determines the kind of difficulty you're going to have to get followers, and also then to also battle and fight and do the things that feature in the game. Like you said, the control system using both wandering around with the joystick and then the fire button to then choose from the icons, which had kind of a nice sort of almost musical tonal quality to the selection, so you could sort of identify what you were doing. That all played out quite well. But the problem is that the logic of the game was kind of trapped in a more surreal view around, and like you say, it never really felt like much paid off. So you'd pick up objects that were strewn around the landscape that would have kind of an arbitrary value that you could use to give to people or influence people or whatever. But it kind of felt kind of meaningless, and it never really felt, because if you have no affinity for any or knowledge of any of the characters that you're coming across in the game, then you're never going to know how they're going to respond to you. Therefore, it all becomes arbitrary. So it's just like wandering around meeting Japanese people, just going, do you fancy some cheese? Yeah, you like cheese? Oh, great. Yeah. Follow me, I'll give you some cheese. And then another one goes, I don't like cheese. And then all of a sudden it's a fight. It's just very arbitrary. And so your route to gaining those followers does not seem like a logical progression of actually building up a following. It's more akin to just randomly encountering people and influencing them in a way that you have access to. And I think it's failing. I struggled with the viewpoint of the game and the graphics. They're nice graphics, but I struggled with the view. I even said to you when I spoke to you about it briefly that I was having trouble getting my head around the view I'm looking at, because it's 2D, 3D, D-da, D-do. It didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I can see that there's hints and ideas of a kind of adventure that's different to what you would expect this game to normally be, because it could have just been wander around with a sword and kill people, but it's not that. And so I felt a little bit sad that I felt there was a game in there that would perhaps really appeal to me as a fan of the novel, but I couldn't find a way in. I was wandering around, not really being able to influence, and I knew some of the characters and some of the foibles, and it didn't make a lot of sense to try and tempt the Lady Mariko with some things that I'd found. It didn't really work. So I think there's trappings of a good idea. There's lots of stuff behind the scenes going on. The main problem with the game, and I think this was what it was for me, if I really was to summarize it, it just didn't feel like it was much fun.
Yes.
It just felt a bit boring. It felt like I was wandering around, not really being able to do much, and that's a shame. There's so much good stuff that goes on in that novel. I mean, it's the first time, by the way, I must say, it must be the first time in UK TV where famously towards the end of the miniseries and the novel, there's an entire ninja attack on the temple where John Blackthorne and Lady Mariko are holding up. And there's an entire ninja attack on there, and the TV show is brilliant. all the things you'd expect to see from ninjas as a kid. Shuriken stars, swords, people dressed in black creeping up walls and dropping down and doing all cool ninja-y stuff. All of that happens in there. It's all amazing. And in fact, they even blow up a bomb which kills John Blackthorne's, kills Lady Mariko, so it kills his wife at this point, I think she is, or kills his... It's loads more to it than that, but that's actually probably the worst spoiler of all, but don't matter.
Too late.
So
Time to go back in time.
You can now,
break out the old DeLorean.
now you can watch the Super Mini series, that's the TLDR I've given you there. But all of that, I admire the fact that they embraced a way of doing that that's different to anything else. And I think there's a legacy in this game that starts to sort of... I think at this point, are they realizing maybe that you don't have to make a game because it's got samurais and ninjas and characters in it, that they just have to fight all the time, that they can do other things? And later down the line, games do that, and there's an old RPG world that starts to open up on the back of a game like this, maybe. And maybe I'm attributing more to it than it deserves. But it scored 71% in Zap. I think it was perhaps a little bit mean. Maybe it's about right. I don't know. But $9.95, it's about the right price for a game that's quite complex. But if you'd have handed me this game back in 1986, bear in mind I was a fan of the TV miniseries and the novel even back then, I think I would have, I don't know, I think I might have expected to be fighting more ninjas. I hate to say so. Maybe I'd have expected an Avenger game
exactly.
more than a Shogun game. But you know what? It is what it is. And if you like Shogun and you've read the novels, I think you'd probably get a little bit more from this than if you watch the TV show. So I don't know. It's just a bit floaty, isn't it? And a bit surreal. So maybe it just missed the mark. But that was my take.
No, yeah, I think we're kind of in agreement. There's something there, but there's a bit of... I think it's either going to resonate with you or and really connect, or you're just going to be a bit bewildered.
Yeah. Well, I found it hard to win the battles. I don't know about you. When I replayed it this time, when people just decided to fight me or I decided to fight them, I found that...
I didn't know how you're supposed to do it. I just picked fight.
Yeah. I went to the sword icon, and I'm assuming that's what I was meant to do. And then it was like, all of a sudden I'd lost, and I was like, all right, maybe I did something wrong. I don't know. Maybe I know that there is a large fan base for this game out there. When I did a bit of research, I found that this is quite a well-loved and respected game for many reasons. And people have written long discussions and long threads on the internet about how you can find your way through and which are the best characters to start with and what you need to do initially, and go on, do this and do that and find this person and kill that person and do that, because that's how you get more followers quickly. And so clearly there's mileage in that kind of friend management system. But maybe, Facebook could take a note from this and do it for real. So if you want to go influencing people, maybe that's where Facebook got their inspiration for likes and for that kind of thing from this early game. I doubt that very much.
Doubt that.
But
you never know. Who knows?
You never know.
So there you go. That's Shogun. I think we're a bit nonplussed, but it's a bit strange. However, probably not so nonplussed as we will be with our final game. I've saved the best till last by some country bloody mile. Graham, tell us about Green Beret.
I'm lucky, actually, really, aren't I? Because you got Shogun and I got Green Beret.
I did it on purpose. I'm going to come in on this, don't worry.
Green Beret is a arcade conversion, and I think the arcade conversion was Rush and Attack. And I think it might have various names.
Yeah, it was Green Beret over here.
Yeah, I was going to say it's Green Beret here. It's got various names, but essentially it's a game. It's a side-scrolling stab 'em up, and you go from left to right, running across a military-esque landscape, stabbing your way and flamethrowing your way through to the end battle. It's a bit like a side-scrolling Commando, actually, in some ways. And you get through that level and you get to the next level, and the backgrounds change, and I think you're actually infiltrating a military base the further you go in. So the idea is that you're going to, it's arcade heritage, so go across the levels. It's a scrolling level. It scrolls, I say, left to right, right to left, right to left. It scrolls,
right.
and you can with the controls, you can jump, you can stab, you can use the space bar on the Commodore 64 to fire a flamethrower, which is a weapon you can pick up along route. There's different enemy types. They jump around, they stab, they shoot bullets, which, by the way, will kill you and shoot you up the arse at the most inopportune moments. Guarantee you that. And that's kind of the game. That's the game logic. And that's how the arcade work, all the variations. That's how Green Beret works. That is it. This game on the Commodore 64, I would pitch as possibly one of the greatest arcade conversions of all time on the Commodore 64, because it has everything. The sprites are well animated and the graphics are good. They're not arcade perfect, but they're Commodore 64 good. So you've got all the decent backgrounds, all the decent main sprites. There's actually a lot of sprites on the screen at any given time as well, so it doesn't feel like it's one enemy per every 2 minutes. You've got a good flow of enemies scrolling in from the left and the right, so you get them all over the place. There's missile launcher guys. There's a whole series of different stuff. The graphics are good. It plays like the arcade. So it's got the arcade gameplay. It's got the arcade look. The music is extraordinary for Green Beret. It's extraordinary. There's no other way around that. This is another one where they've gone to Martin Galway and said, Mr. Galway, is there any chance that you could produce some arcade type music for this kind of side-scrolling commando variant that we've got going on? And he's gone, you know what, I'll give it a go. So you get the most beautiful, morose, sad loading music, I think, of all time on the Commodore 64. I don't think anyone would argue with that. The loading music for Green Beret is extraordinary in its kind of sad, drifting tone, do. It's not what you'd expect for a loading music for Green Beret as the kind of image of a Green Beret loads. Then when the game loads in, you've got the kind of variations of the arcade sounds, which are actually pretty much arcade correct, really pushing the SID chip to its ultimate. We've used many of the interstitials from this game in this very podcast because they're so good. The sound effects are good. The in-game music is good. The loading music is amazing. The high score music is really good. This is the kind of full package, it's the kind of
title screen music.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the title screen music, it's an entire package. And I think sometimes I look at this and think, if only Rambo was this complete in its way, because it's got everything but the game. Rambo is kind of 10% of everything that Green Beret represents. Green Beret is like the full package, so it's like side-scrolling, does all of those things. So I really liked it. I went out and traded my copy of V, which didn't work, and I'm just doing air quotes with my fingers there. Didn't work. It displayed a ready run, a ready error. It doesn't work. Unfortunately, when I tested it in boots, it didn't. I traded it for Green Beret, and it is not a decision to this day I regret. Bear in mind that I'm a huge V fan. Even now, if I went up in the loft in my house, I've still got my Green Beret cassette, because it was a double cassette when you bought it as well. So instead of it being like a single cassette, it was like a bigger tape case that you got, bigger packaging. It was $8.95. It was a sizzler, 93%. In fact, well deserved. I don't know that it's quite gold material, because I'm not sure what prevented it from being that really in terms of this, but I think it's genuinely one of the great 64 games, up there with Way of the Exploding Fistas, a landmark game in the C64. If you ever doubted that the C64 was capable of a really good arcade conversion and you hadn't seen Hypersports, which was actually a really good arcade conversion, again with Martin Galway music, then this comes along and stamps it once and for all. This was the game that you showed Spectrum owners to go, do you know what? Spectrums are crap. Check this out. And it really was an eye-opener right from the get-go, right from that moment you put the tape in and that loading music started. And I know for a fact that you agree with me, because I think this is one of your favourite games. But I could be wrong. Could be in a time tunnel.
Could be wrong. You're not wrong. I like this more than you like this. I think this should have been a gold medal.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's just start this where I start this. This is, this ate more of my 10 pences in 1985, 1986 in Lucky Las Vegas, which was the arcade underneath Gulliver's nightclub in Grimsby, where I grew up, than any other game ever made. I could not put enough money into this. I couldn't earn enough. They wouldn't pay me more on the paper round, despite me asking for, can I have an advance for next week? They wouldn't give me it. I put so much money into this in the arcade. When it came to the C64, I was like, oh my God, please be good, please be good, please be good. To say that, that they nailed it is an understatement. For me, it's my favourite arcade game ever, for one thing. There's something, I don't know what it is, there's just something about running left to right, stabbing people repeatedly, and then burning them alive with flamethrowers. The constant difficulty. It's. I'm not usually a massive Konami arcade fan. I think Contra's at Konami. I think Grise or whatever. I think. Yep. And I'm not usually a massive fan of I'm more of a Capcom. I kind of generally tend to like the Capcom stuff. But Konami, boom, on this one they were just. I don't know what it was. I don't know who. I really should look into who developed this, but it's a perfect game, and for some reason it just ticked every single box in my head. Then we got the C64 version, as you've already said. The music is incredible. The suite of music, the volume of music, the amount of music in this single load. Let's not forget here, this is one load. Incredible. And not only just one load with all that music. This is one load with all the arcade, all of it. all the levels, everything, all the interstitials, all the cutscenes, all the enemies, everything. There's nothing missing. Even the little bit where you run and jump over the fence in between levels, it's all there. It's the opening cutscene where the guys are struggling, the POWs are struggling. So this is like it's riffing on Rambo, it's riffing on Missing in Action. This is your single guy sent in to rescue POWs. It's just perfect. I can't get around how good this was. And when I played this, and I played so much this, it was one of my proudest achievements that I completed this. But people don't believe it. I did complete this, no cheats back in the day. And it is rock hard, but I played it so much that there was no way I was not going to stop. This is incredible. There's loads of animations as well. I don't know how this fits in 64K. I don't know. There's so many sprites. There's so much going on. I know there's, like you said, there's the normal shooty ones, the blue ones, there's the brown ones just run at you, there's the special commanders, there's the karate guys, the ones in green. You've got the bits at the end of the levels where they all pile out when the truck goes across. You've got the dogs later on. You've got the bazooka bloke. You've got the different levels. There's different things. You've got the guys who come down on parachutes. Everything from pretty much everything from the arcade game is here, and it's all perfect. There's a little bit of graphical glitching every now and again, but who cares? It's so much fun to play. It's so good. It's so enjoyable. It's it's the best game Imagine ever made. And I know it's a conversion. And I know we've gone on about Way the Exploding Fist, and you were aggrieved with International Karate, and we've been said that this is the one that agrees me that this only got 93% because I don't think you could have done anything more with it. And to me, it's the perfect arcade game. It's one of my favourite games ever. I could wax lyrical about this for so long, but we've only got so much time.
Well, there's some interesting things about it, isn't there? So it's a Dave Collier game, and that's the guy that made Hypersports, Rambo, Roland's Rat Race, Terra Cresta, Yeah Kung Fu, Combat School. He was a ocean Imagine stalwart, and let's face it, the guy knew how to make a conversion of because even Terra Cresta's amazing as well as Hypersports. And we know that Rambo wasn't necessarily complete, but Rambo as a game is very, very, very complete. And there's other stuff as well in amongst of his his list of games that he did. But you're absolutely right. It was a Konami arcade originally, so it was made by Konami, and obviously released then under license across the various different versions. But by a mile, the Commodore 64 version was the best conversion of that. I think made famous by, I have to say, I think, game aside, I think the music really outlives Green Beret as a game. I think it's no small part, and we've seen it with other titles, with Rob Hubbard titles and with other Martin Galway titles, but the Green Beret music is something very, very unique and special. Outside of the trappings of the arcade style music that was made, everything kind of came together for Green Beret. Even the cover art, that was a Bob Wakelin graphic, the Green Beret art that was on the cover advert and the tape for Green Beret. So that's Bob Wakelin, a really great, famous ocean artist. Everything really pulled together. There's so many amazing techniques programmatically that are used by Dave Collier, including a very, very clever multiplexing sprite routine that became almost the de facto way to do multiplexing sprites on a Commodore 64. And for want of a quick description, it's a way of being able to display more than 8 sprites across a screen and using a sort of trick and using some kind of, some Vic chip tricks. So from every technical aspect and every way, they threw the book at this one to make it absolutely arcade perfect. I have to agree. I have to say, if I look at this game and their review, they are glowing about the game in the review. I struggle to see why it scored 93 and not a gold. I don't quite get that. But we're in an episode and with an issue of Zapped where Tubular Bells scored 44%.
This is only 8% better than Superstar Ping Pong.
Exactly, and it's not. That's what I mean. Some of their reviews are at the point. We actually said this in the last 2 episodes. I have to say that some of the Zapped review scores are not necessarily matching either the review comments and or the actual games themselves. So I think Green Beret deserved a much better rap than it got here. I know that they waxed lyrical about the sound and the graphics and everything else. I don't get where they're coming from. It's not like this game is short or that you could complete it in 2 minutes like Rambo, because it's not like that. It's really not. It's hard. Arcade difficulty. So for you to have completed this is a real testament to how much you must have played it. I mean, I played this a lot. I loaded this a lot more for its music. The loading music, I love it to this day. It's the Green Beret loading music is beautiful. And there's an amazing YouTube video of Rain, I want to say Weehan, but I don't know exactly how you pronounce his surname, so forgive my pronunciation, doing a live version of the Green Beret track, which we maybe post to the website when we get a moment. But just, it's a game that resonates because of its sound and its graphic. And underneath all of that, even if you took that aside, you've got a great arcade conversion that has everything from the arcade in it. Everything. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that's not in this that isn't in the arcade. Nothing.
Even the backgrounds as well. They look like the arcade.
Yes. They do. They look like the arcade. They scroll like the arcade. It plays like the arcade. You jump like the arcade. You climb the ladders. Your flamethrower works the same way. It's really, really good. If there was ever going to be a list of the games you must play on the Commodore 64, if someone said, give me 10 games that I absolutely must play that would give me all of the aspects of the Commodore 64, Green Beret would have to be on that list. It would have to be, because it's the full package. And to this day, it remains playable, consistent, orally amazing, graphically brilliant, well-programmed. It's in my top 10 Commodore 64 games of all time and will remain so forever. Hence the reason I bought it. I didn't invest in games back then unless I really thought there was something special. So, and I hadn't played the arcade as much as you either. So it's a special game, Green Beret, for the Commodore 64. It is.
Yeah, no two ways around it. It's just amazing. I was waiting for this episode, and
it's the cover as well.
It's a great cover as well. It's a really good cover.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's the close up of the face and the blood and the bullets. It's a really, really good Oliver Frey cover.
It is.
And, the reviews are a bit flippant and green hat and all that up, but I'm just looking at some of the screenshots, and even just looking at the screenshots, because, let's not forget Stephen Wahid did the graphics. He's another Ocean Stalwart, Contra, Arkanoid, Green Beret, Mikey, Gryzor, Rambo, Terra Cresta, Yeah Kung Fu. This was a team that had been working together that Ocean had assembled, that was, just churning out these titles that looked, just the business. They looked and played, not everyone was a massive hit. Comic Bakery was a misstep, and things like that. But when they got it right, Jesus, they got it right. And I think this could have been so wrong. You ever played the Amstrad version? I don't normally rag on other versions, but a friend of mine back then had an Amstrad.
I only ever played the Commodore 64 version in the arcade.
The Amstrad version had scrolling when you got to the near the edge of the screen, and then scrolled the next section on. It didn't have full screen smooth scrolling, so that kind of ruined it. It just broke, because you need to be center screen, Mario style, as what kind of the scrolling is. You start on the left, and as you get to the center, it scrolls around you. It's just perfect. It's just this superb game. And the other thing, the great thing about this is that, it's not just about, this game is not just running left to right. You've got to pick the levels you go on, jumping, climbing, avoiding the ladders, picking the time when to drop down on people. That, it's not just stabbing people. You got to time that jump and the stab of the karate guys, and picking out, ducking under the thing, taking out, saving a special weapon to take out the mines that lay on the floor and things.
Absolutely,
it's just an amazing game. It's an amazing arcade game. It's an amazing conversion. It will. I've said before that I thought the Eidolon was probably my favourite game on the system. Going back now, this is the most fun again I've had playing a game. I was playing this for ages, far too long, and it's I play it quite a lot from time to time, and I always wax lyrical about it. But for doing it for this, having a real proper look at it again and trying to sort of examine why it is I like it so much. It's a brilliant arcade game that I will never ever tire of playing.
I agree. And you watch it rocket up the charts to number 1. Watch it go.
Yeah. There you go. I knew that'd be a good one.
Go play it.
Yeah.
If you're going to play a Commodore 64 game, if someone said to me, give me a game to play, I'd say go play Green Beret.
Yeah. There's not many better.
No. Is it the start of the run and gun genre on the C64 as well?
I think if you think you get this, I think you've got, this, I'm not sure the arcade lineage, but this and something like Ghosts and Goblins probably share quite a lot of, DNA. Yeah. I know obviously Capcom, the Ghosts and Goblins, but then you get things like Contra or Gryzor, as it was over here.
Yeah, Contra,
and games like that, and Midnight Resistance would then, all those kind of things. But the thing what I think this game does more than the others, it's a stabathon. You got to get up. You got to get up close and personal. It's not about shooting from a distance. Even Ghosts and Goblins is throwing. You don't want things anywhere near you. This is about getting up in people's faces and stabbing them. I sound a bit too happy about getting up in people's face and stabbing them. It's not something I normally do. But in context of this game, I think that's what makes this stand out. It's that risk and reward. You've not got much space and time to get the stab right and to get the stab wrong.
No.
And that's the other thing that this gets right over what Ye Kung Fu didn't do. The collision detection on this, I've never had a problem with it. If I miss a stab, it's my fault.
On. Yes. And it's the right balance of weaponry that you can find and the omnipresent combat knife that you can use to stab with. You do get the flamethrower and the sort of RPG thing and the grenades, and there are those things you can find along route, and there are ways you can maybe do the game with those, but ultimately you're running around stabbing, and like you say, you got to time it just right. And so many times I mistimed it and ended it with that diddle kind of,
Yeah.
And then you even get the do 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 do, and you get that, and you want to go back as soon as that goes back to that screen. You've maybe scored a high score. You pumped your letters in, then it's do 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 do, and the guys on the poles kind of struggling. And this is just such a great complete game. It's fabulous. Go play it. Go play it today.
Yes, indeed. There you go. That's your games. I always like that's nice to end on a high. That's why I saved that one. We had to struggle through some turgid dross, but it was worth it in the end. Right, I think that's it. There's no budget section this week. There's no Crapverts or anything. So I think that's it. I think we're done. That's it. So there we go. So we ended on a good one there, Green Beret. What have we looked at this week? Just to sort of say, we have looked at the games Superstar Ping Pong, Sandfox Strip Poker, Touchdown Football.
Yeah.
Which one was that to? It could be to any of them.
Any of them.
Groovy Garden. Nothing groovy about that. Tubular Bells. Pointless.
Pong.
Shogun. And the awesome Green Beret. So there you go. Just to say, that's it really. Next week. What have we got coming up next week? We're going to look at the rest of the games. Quite a bumper crop this week. This issue, sort of thing, this month. So...
Sorry, did you say bumper crop or bump of crap?
No, bumper crop. A bumper crop of games. There's a lot. So next week... Okay. We'll be looking at stuff like Tausetti. We'll finally look at if Legend of the Amazon Women was as bad as the advert. The weird and strange Infiltrator, and more infiltrating with Saboteur and Nexus. There's a lot of infiltrating going on in this episode.
Yes, lots of icon-driven games in the next episode.
Along with others as well. And of course, we have actually got a couple of Crapverts, and we've got some, and obviously the film and TV stuff going on as well. So on that note, I think we'll finish. So I have been Adrian Mills.
I have been Graham Raddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past. And we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.